Chapter 347. For the first time, standing outside the planet to enjoy the scenery of space, Hinata's heart was extremely shocked. Compared to the boundless universe, the ninja world is really too small. In this endless void, he doesn't know how many powerful civilizations are hidden. Perhaps even the seemingly powerful Otsutsuki clan is just a speck of dust in this boundless universe. Perhaps in the depths of the universe, there are strong people who regard Otsutsuki Kagaya as ants. The frog at the bottom of the well thinks that the sky is only as big as the mouth of the well. And Hinata peeps into the vast universe with the knowledge of the ninja world. Isn't he also a frog at the bottom of the well? Standing outside the world, Hinata felt his own insignificance for the first time, and felt that his previous idea was so ridiculous. But thinking of the 5 Kage summit that is valued by the whole world, Hinata felt that they are also insignificant. The light green chakra flame enveloped Hinata's body. Hinata stood in the void, looking at the boundless universe, and the shock in his heart could not be calmed down for a long time. Hinata clenched his fists, and the thoughts in his heart gradually became firm. Hinata doesn't know what other people would think if they saw such a vast scenery, but Hinata's heart has been filled with the world in front of him. The world under his feet is only a starting point, and this world will support Hinata to touch a more vast world. As far as the eye can see, every bright star is a gorgeous and colorful world. Countless worlds form this vast and boundless universe. Hinata can't imagine that he will conquer this universe, but at least he has to step into every corner and witness the origin, change, and destruction of the universe. I have this ability. Hinata's heart is very firm. The road he takes may be the opposite of the ninja world, but it's not wrong, but because they can't touch a more distant world. Hinata suddenly understood Black Zetsu's words before. Shinobu will eventually become a burden to Hinata, hindering Hinata's progress. The strong are lonely, and if they can't enjoy this loneliness, they can't leave the crowd and eventually become a part of all living beings. Compared to Uchiha Madara, Hashirama's behavior is undoubtedly great. He established the ninja village system and improved the ninja's way of life. However, Hashirama's behavior limited himself. Therefore, the world in Uchiha Madara's eyes is much bigger than Hashirama's world. Turning his head to look at the distance, it's an asteroid. Maybe it's not a planet, at most a meteorite. Urushi. The Otsutsuki was sealed in that meteorite by Sasuke. This meteorite was so small that it couldn't be seen in the ninja world. Compared to the moon that sealed Kagaya Otsutsuki, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Next time. After hesitating for a while, Hinata decided not to destroy the seal for the time being. It's not that Hinata is not confident in his strength, but Hinata thought of the future Sasuke's words, Urushi's chakra and Naruto's share. Although the future Sasuke left, Hinata doesn't want to break his promise. Let's go back. Seeing the whole world, Hinata was full of fighting spirit and turned back to the ninja world. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. No matter how big Hinata's dream is, it must be completed little by little. Without the help of Kagaya, Hinata can't travel in space at all. Hinata knows nothing about the universe's star map, and he doesn't know how to plant the sacred tree. If he kills Urushi and absorbs Urushi's sacred tree, Hinata will probably be able to get the ability of Yomiuri no Urushi. Urushi and the sacred tree's body have been integrated, so the only way to absorb the sacred tree's body is to transform Urushi into chakra fruit and eat it. The world in front of Kuroto's eyes gradually became clear. Earth, rivers, mountains, lakes, towns, until Shinobu appeared in Hinata's field of vision. This space trip came to an end. Lifting the Tensigen chakra mode, Hinata passed through the perception barrier, entered the back mountain of Shinobu, and then returned to the Hyuga residence. In the bedroom, Hinata's heart was still shocked, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. The feeling of already knowing, and seeing it with my own eyes are completely different. Hinata's body is small, but the world in his heart is huge, and he yearns for a wider world. Let's get ready. Hinata murmured and began to pack his things. When Tsunade and the others set off for the Land of Iron, Hinata will also leave Shinobu and meet Orochimaru in private. At that time, White Zetsu will use the barter transformation jutsu to disguise himself as Hinata and lurk in the Hyuga residence. Hinata will also inform Hyogo to not let outsiders contact him for the time being. This time, when he meets Orochimaru, in addition to bringing Kimimara's blood, Hinata also prepared a gift for Orochimaru. White Zetsu has already got the Shinigami's mask, and according to Black Zetsu, Orochimaru has unlocked the Shiki seal and got his hands back. However, the Nine Tails must be sealed last, so the organizations did not ask Orochimaru to summon Namikaze Minato for the time being. For Orochimaru, who has recovered to his peak, what he wants most besides Sasuke's body and the fusion of Hashirama's cells is to learn Sage Mode. However, Hinata doesn't want to enhance Orochimaru's power. In case Orochimaru's power grows enough to suppress Indra, then Sasuke will be in danger. This greeting gift was a document. Orochimaru has already deciphered the secrets of Rinnegan through his conversation with Black Zetsu. The information Hinata prepared for Orochimaru is about natural energy and the secrets of the three holy lands. With Orochimaru's ambition, once he understands the secrets of natural energy, he may not be able to help but attack the Ryochi cave. Hinata wants to trick Orochimaru and use Orochimaru's power to eradicate the Ryochi cave. Orochimaru has absolutely no feelings for the Ryochi cave, and Hinata won't have as many ties to deal with the Ryochi cave as he did with Mount Myaboku and Shikatsu Forest. The Ryochi cave can be said to be the easiest place to break out of the three holy lands. Does the snake living in the Ryochi cave have the effect of a spiritual beast? Just try it and you will know. Hinata picked up the blank scroll and pen and recorded all his understanding of natural energy. It also included Hinata's interpretation of the three holy lands and his speculation about the nutrients of the sacred tree. He believes that with Orochimaru's thirst for knowledge, these things are absolutely a fatal temptation for him. Orochi-san, known as the first scientist in the ninja world, to what extent can you do? You don't have much time left. At most, in a year and a half, Orochimaru will attack Sasuke. In a year and a half, to what extent can Orochimaru do? Chapter 348. At the Shinobu venue, Hinata was sitting in the audience seat, holding a lot of snacks in his arms and eating happily. A row of genin stood below the venue. There were a few unfamiliar faces, but there were also some old acquaintances of Hinata. The exam format hasn't changed. The Chunin exam is held twice a year. Although the exam system is different each time, it is generally the same. Ninja-related knowledge, intelligence collection, team tasks, and individual battles. Kacha. Kacha. While eating potato chips, Hinata said leisurely, "It's such a nostalgic scene. After this time, most of the people in the same class as me will be promoted to Chunin, right?" Niji, who was sitting next to Hinata, disagreed. "I heard that the Sand Village is about to elect the 5th Kazekage. In order to show the national strength, the Sand Village will probably hold the Chunin exam next year, and Shinobu will also participate. The Chunin exam is a small-scale battle. At that time, there will be rich and noble people from all countries coming to watch the competition. The major ninja villages will send their best genin to participate in the exam. Shinobu can't not take this into consideration, so they probably won't promote too many people in the Chunin exam. Compared to the large-scale Chunin exam, the village doesn't value the title of genin at all." Hinata nodded slightly, so there is such a thing. "The 5th Kazekage? Is there any news?" Niji shook his head and said, "Not yet. I heard that the 5 Kage tournament will be presided over by Elder Chio of the Sand Village." Hana said with some envy, "I don't know when I will be able to take the Chunin exam." Hinata touched Hana's little head and whispered, "Don't worry. You can participate when you graduate from the Ninja Academy. And with your current strength, it is enough to be promoted to Chunin. It doesn't matter if you are late." Soon the competition began. The individual battles are basically one-on-one, nothing special, but it is interesting to watch occasionally. In addition to the villagers of Shinobu, there were also some merchants and nobles from the Land of Fire. The ninja battle was very attractive to them, so the atmosphere was very lively. Hinata looked around with a smirk on her face. Niji looked at Hinata curiously and wondered, "Speaking of which, why did you suddenly drag me and Fireworks to watch a match like this?" With Hinata's strength, the battles in the arena were just like chickens pecking at each other. There shouldn't be any entertainment value, right? Hinata muttered. Of course it's to cheat. Aya. Stop talking and watch the match. In this Chunin exam, Hinata made a big bet, and he was just waiting to count the money. However, things like gambling were often full of uncertainty, and the uncertainty in a battle was even greater. In order to ensure that he would win, Hinata thought of cheating. We won. At the end of the first battle, Hinata was overjoyed. 10 million ryo was in his hand. However, in the second battle, there was a change. The genin who was favored by Hinata seemed to have eaten the wrong medicine. He looked strong and majestic, but in fact he was just a toothpick. However, this was not a problem for Hinata. Have you ever seen natural energy cheating? Moreover, using natural energy to cheat. Even if all Shinobu sensor ninjas were added together, they wouldn't be able to find out that Hinata was playing tricks in the dark. At present, the only person in the shinobi world who can find the flaw is Jiraiya. We won. Hinata cheered loudly. Another 10 million ryo was in his hand. In the first two Chunin exams, Hinata missed the bet, and he was upset for a long time. This time he finally caught up. In order to participate in the bet, Hinata also secretly took a huge sum of money from the Hyuga family. If he won, he would be rich, and if he lost, he might be hung up by Hyogo and spanked. Niji looked at Hinata with a puzzled face. Why are you so happy when someone else won? You don't even know that person. The ninja war ended quickly. The 7 games were over in less than an hour, and the winners were selected. It's not worth the ticket price at all. Hinata complained. The village is really too much. Those rich people worked hard to come to Shinobu just to watch a game that lasted less than an hour. It's too much of a loss. If you ask me, you should have played 100 games. Niji's face was indifferent as he said the truth. Hinata, you didn't participate in the bet, did you? Hinata, okay. The game is over, let's go eat. It's my treat. Hinata acted as if nothing had happened. He pulled Niji and Huahua out of the venue and prepared to treat them to a big meal. Hinata wanted to invite his friends from the same year to eat together, but they always had missions, so it was difficult to get together. In the barbecue shop, Niji said ruthlessly, although I don't know how much you earned, treating us to barbecue. That's too stingy. Hinata glared at Niji and said disdainfully, then treat us. Huahua gave him face and used a pair of tongs to fiddle with the barbecue, looking like she was about to drool. What a pitiful child. Huahua was usually very polite and followed the rules. Other than going to school, she stayed at home and rarely went out to play, let alone eat Shinobu's food. Hyogo didn't allow it at all. Although a noble lady looked very elegant, she didn't have much fun in life. Naruto, Sama is leaving for the Land of Iron tomorrow, right? Hinata asked without thinking. Niji nodded. Yes. Why are you asking this? Nothing. Hinata said casually. Just asking. It was a rare meal for the 3 siblings. Hinata didn't want to talk about the village's matters. And those things had nothing to do with Hinata. Huahua, eat more. Yes, yes. Hinata took care of Huahua while stuffing himself with food. He felt that his life was complete. However, Niji and Huahua's appetites were relatively small. The two of them added together didn't eat as much as Hinata. In the end, Niji and Huahua drank juice while watching Hinata eat. Huahua touched Hinata's belly with a look of disbelief. She had eaten so much, but Hinata's belly didn't bulge at all. This was simply unscientific, and it didn't make any sense. It's the first time I've seen sister eat so much. Huahua suddenly sighed. Hinata's action of pinching the meat slightly stiffened. His neck was stiff, and he turned his head mechanically to look at Huahua. Haven't you seen it before? Huahua shook her head and cutely said, I've only heard others talk about it before. It's over. It's not easy for me to maintain a perfect image in front of Huahua. Should I dig out Danzo's eyes and give Huahua Koto Amatsukami? And Niji also wants to silence her. Huahua covered her mouth and chuckled. But you're much cuter when you're like this. Chapter 349. After the dinner, Hinata, Niji, and Hanabi returned to the Hyuga residence together. When he was at the barbecue shop, Hinata also met 4 people from Asma's class. However, Hinata only went over to say hello, and was too embarrassed to put the bill of his table on Asma's bill. The main reason is that Asma is strictly guarded against Hinata, and even watched Hinata pay the bill, and then watched Hinata leave before he was willing to stop. So stingy. Hinata also unceremoniously put the hat of stingy on Asma's head, and the color is green. The night before yesterday, Hinata flew into space in the Tensigan chakra mode, and made a grand ambition to the Sea of Stars, vowing to see the origin and destruction of the universe. However, when Hinata calmed down, a new confusion emerged in Hinata's mind. What is the purpose of his pursuit of immortality? The three great sage of the three holy lands stay in a chair every day, and the toad sage of Mount Myaboku is so old that he can't move. Living like them, even if they live for 10,000 years, it would be meaningless. It's not even as exciting as a mortal's life in a short 100 years. It's not a great enlightenment, but Hinata is just an ordinary person after all. He can't leave, and he can't bear to leave his family and friends. Even if they don't do anything, just being together with each other, Hinata can feel warm in his heart. The imperial hegemony is better than being drunk in the mortal world. Although Hinata's imperial hegemony has not yet started, Hinata has already seen his future from the countless movies and TV series he has watched in his previous life. Isn't it already prepared? Sitting in a chair, Hinata laughed at himself. What's the point of being sad about things that have been prepared for a long time? If you get something, you will lose something else. It all depended on which of the two was more important to him. The next day, Tsunade left Shinobu with Kakashi and Shisanara. Hinata also went to the back mountain of Shinobu, and let White Zetsu absorb some of his chakra, and then turned into his own appearance. I'll leave the village to you, Hinata said. I've already talked to Lord Father. If there's anything, you can go and find Lord Father. White Zetsu turned into Hinata and nodded slightly. Hinata, let's go, Black Ju said. After leaving Shinobu's range, Hinata didn't know why, but he suddenly felt a little flustered. There shouldn't be any problems with the plan. If there wasn't a fight, White Zetsu wouldn't show any flaws. Not to mention, Hyogo was there to help. The fluster in Hinata's heart was actually the tension and excitement of doing bad things. Just like when Hinata skipped class to go online for the first time in his previous life, his heart was also nervous and excited. Sure enough, after a while, Hinata completely let go of himself, shuttling through the woods. Every cell in Hinata's body was exuding the joy of freedom. Sure enough, some things only need to be experienced a few times to be completely adapted. Humans are very accustomed to adapting to the environment. For Hinata, who had been in the palm of his family since childhood, as long as he thought that one day he would leave the family and the village, there was a kind of panic and confusion in his heart. The feeling of leaving the village on a mission and sneaking out of the village was different. But after experiencing this kind of thing a few times, maybe it won't feel like it. Baby is going to grow up too. Hinata had always felt that he was an adult, and the dependence on his family had always been selectively ignored by Hinata. However, the real growth may start from the first bad thing. Black Zetsu did not go with Hinata. Black Zetsu was attached to White Zetsu, and this kind of traveling method was not suitable for Black Zetsu. It should be here. I didn't expect Orochimaru to have such a base in the Fire Country. Standing at the entrance of the cave, Hinata opened his Byakugan, and everything inside the cave appeared clearly in Hinata's vision. It was just a deserted base, and the experimental equipment was very old. It seemed that Orochimaru had prepared this base when he was still in Shinobu. Entering the cave, there was a long corridor. After a few dozen meters, mottled stone walls appeared on both sides of the cave. Continuing along the way, there was a stone door on both sides of the stone wall. It seemed that Orochimaru had used to hold experimental materials. Entering the deepest part of the cave, a stone door appeared in front of Hinata's eyes. Hinata just looked at the stone door with the Byakugan. There were only two people behind the stone door, Orochimaru and Zetsu. Kacha. The stone door's mechanism was activated, and the door slowly opened. The moment he saw Hinata, Orochimaru's eyes flashed with excitement, and he unconsciously stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Hinata, I didn't expect that we would meet in this way. Hinata didn't know what to say, and could only say, yes. Long time no see. Orochimaru was indeed surprised. Even if he was very interested in Hinata, Orochimaru never thought that he would be able to kidnap Hinata. After all, the environment was different, and Hinata was not easy to kidnap. Hey, let's start. Hinata glanced at Orochimaru's hands and said in a rude tone, being out for too long will make the villagers suspicious. Don't worry. Orochimaru said slowly, Kimimaro is nothing, but I spent a lot of money to get Hashirama's cells. You can't take such a valuable thing from me without paying anything, right? Hinata turned to look at Black Zetsu, and Black Zetsu said in a deep voice. Orochimaru proposed a new condition. Hinata's eyes turned to Orochimaru again, and the Byakugan turned into the Tensigan in an instant, and the chakra in Orochimaru's body madly flowed into Hinata's body. Don't be too presumptuous. Hinata said in a low voice. Orochimaru, you are not qualified to make conditions now. Orochimaru's face was extremely ugly, and it was not the first time he lost so badly. The last time he lost to Itachi Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha's eyes were the same as Hinata's at this moment, the eyes of a god looking down at a mortal, high and disgusting. Damn it. Orochimaru was like a defeated beast, and his whole body exuded an amazing murderous aura. White Zetsu joked, Hinata-chan, don't be angry, be careful of wrinkles. After all, we are partners with Orochimaru. If one party keeps asking, then it's not an equal cooperation. Hinata nodded slightly. That's also true. Hinata reached into the ninja bag and took out a scroll, and threw it to Orochimaru, and said lightly, you should be very interested in the things inside. Snap. Orochimaru reached out and took the scroll, and his pair of snake eyes were still staring at Hinata, and the murderous intent in his eyes could hardly be concealed. Chapter 350. Inside the stone room, Hinata, Orochimaru, and Zetsu looked at each other. Invisible killing intent filled the air, and the atmosphere was almost stagnant. In terms of killing intent, Hinata, a novice ninja, certainly can't compare to Orochimaru. Since Hinata's debut, although he has experienced many battles, but the number of people he has killed is less than a fraction of what Orochimaru has killed. However, Hinata, as a ninja who stands at the pinnacle of the ninja world, has the aura of a strong person, and his aura alone is enough to suppress Orochimaru's killing intent. Because Orochimaru's lack of confidence, he didn't have the courage to fight Hinata. Instead of looking at me like that, it's better to study how to improve your strength. After a while, Hinata looked at Orochimaru and said with a chuckle, Orochimaru, you used to be a strong person. You should understand what that look in your eyes means. Orochimaru, of course, knew what that look in his eyes meant, because Orochimaru has seen such a look countless times. Those who have been defeated by Orochimaru, but are unwilling to accept their failure, will look at him with such a look. This kind of look looks very fierce, but it reveals their own incompetence and timidity, because the strong don't look at others with such a look. Ha 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 ha. Orochimaru's hoarse laughter came, and the killing intent in his eyes didn't diminish, but his tone was very playful as he said, whether this scroll meets the conditions of the transaction or not, it's up to me to decide. Opening the scroll, Orochimaru's eyes swept over it, and his pupils shrank slightly, and an extremely excited light flashed in his snake eyes. Although Hinata's interpretation of natural energy is not unprecedented, at least for the people of the present age, it is the first time that someone has interpreted natural energy to such a degree. Orochimaru has been studying natural energy for many years, and since he can't practice immortal techniques, he focused his research on Yugo. The curse seals developed by Orochimaru are the rough use of natural energy. Longevity, huh? Looking up at Hinata, Orochimaru stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. There was a hint of excitement in his hoarse voice that could not be hidden. I didn't expect that there would be someone in this world other than me who wants to solve the mystery of longevity. Hinata, are you interested in my living corpse reincarnation? Orochimaru wasn't being polite to Hinata. He really wanted to study the way to immortality with Hinata. Geniuses who surpassed ordinary people by a little might be respected by the world, but geniuses who surpassed ordinary people by too much would often be called monsters by the world. Orochimaru was an incomprehensible genius. And Hinata, as a genius of the new generation of shinobu, had also set his sights on immortality. This undoubtedly made Orochimaru feel a sense of excitement. In this world, there is a kind of feeling called high mountains and flowing water. This kind of feeling is called understanding. Living corpse reincarnation is indeed magical, Hinata said faintly. But for me, abandoning my current body is not worth the loss. Orochimaru was not disappointed. After reading the paper on natural energy, Orochimaru knew that Hinata's path was different from his. Hinata continued. Orochimaru, you can't keep changing bodies. Living corpse reincarnation is not the right path. I have already solved the mystery of the immortals of the 3 holy lands surviving for 1,000 years. If you are interested, you can try studying natural energy. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. You want to fuse the power of corpse bone meridian and wood release? Yes. Hinata nodded. Bones and life force are part of the human body, and corpse bone meridian and wood release can make my body more perfect. Perfect. Orochimaru said non-committally. If you think your body is perfect, it can only mean that you have no way to move forward. For people like us, how sad is that? People like us? Hinata laughed. Orochimaru, we are different after all. Orochimaru curiously said. Oh. Hinata did not intend to explain more. He shook his head slightly and said with a smile, when you get Sasuke's body, you will understand what I mean. Yes, there was still Sasuke. Orochimaru was never a person who could not recover after a setback. Although Orochimaru was defeated by Itachi Uchiha and Hinata, Orochimaru will not lose confidence in himself. He will only think that his starting point is slightly lower than Hinata and Itachi Uchiha. He has no Kekkei Genkai, no Byakugan and no Sharingan. As long as he has Sharingan, thinking of this, Orochimaru looked at Hinata and asked lightly, let's start with Kimimaro? Yes. Hinata nodded. Compared to wood release, I am more optimistic about corpse bone meridian. Orochimaru formed a seal with his hands and said playfully, is that so? This is the first time I have heard someone who dares to underestimate the power of wood release. Snap. The last seal was completed. Edo Tensei. In the open space between Hinata and Orochimaru, a coffin broke out of the ground. Boom. The lid of the coffin fell to the ground, and Kimimaro stood quietly in the coffin with his eyes closed, and there were some slight cracks on his face. What a magical ninjutsu. Hinata didn't close the Tensigen, but even with the Tensigen's power, he couldn't see through this ninjutsu. You flatter me. Orochimaru said nonchalantly. Compared to your dojutsu, this ninjutsu is really nothing. Speaking of this, Orochimaru's eyes flashed with a hot light. He didn't expect that the Byakugan could evolve. Do I need to wake him up? Orochimaru asked. Hinata looked at Black Zetsu, and Black Zetsu said solemnly, as long as there is Kimimaro's chakra, it will be fine. Orochimaru made a few hand seals and looked at Hinata curiously. Let's start. Hinata nodded slightly, took out a syringe from the ninja bag, and injected Kimimaro's blood into the syringe, and then injected it into his arm. As the blood was injected, a grayish-white mark immediately appeared on Hinata's white arm. However, immediately afterward, this grayish-white mark was immediately swallowed by the surrounding white skin, and in the blink of an eye, it changed from the size of a fist to the size of a soybean. Black Zetsu quickly reminded Hinata quickly. Hinata didn't dare to hesitate, and launched the Tensigen Dojutsu, and Kimimaro's chakra madly flowed into Hinata's body. The so-called Kekkei Genkai is the power that exists in the human body's genes. Therefore, in the process of integrating the Kekkei Genkai, there is a huge risk that it is easy to be swallowed by the power of the Kekkei Genkai. Hinata's situation is exactly the opposite. Hinata's own vitality is extremely huge, and the power of the Shikkei Genkai will only be swallowed by Hinata. Moreover, with the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan, integrating the Kekkei Genkai is like a big fish eating a small fish. In order to feed Hinata, this big fish, he needs to have enough energy to support it. Chapter 351. Orochimaru's eyes were also fixed on Hinata's arm. This was the first time he saw such a hasty method of fusing Kekkei Genkai. If it were anyone else, they would probably be tortured to the point of incomparable pain, and then die silently under the incomparable pain. His vitality is even stronger than Hashirama. Orochimaru was shocked. The process of Hinata devouring the Shikei Genkai was simply an eye-opener for Orochimaru. In the past, when the experiment of fusing Hashirama's cells was done, the experimental body was often swallowed by the power of Hashirama's cells. Even with the support of drugs, it only delayed the death of the experimental body. Orochimaru also studied Kimimara's body. Although the power of Shikei Genkai is not as good as Hashirama's would release, it's not something ordinary people can bear. In order to let Kimimaro continue to live, Orochimaru also studied the fusion of Shikei Genkai's power with would release, but it still failed. The two completely different forces will only repel each other, and eventually lead to cell necrosis. If Kekkei Genkai were so easy to fuse, then the ninja world would be full of ninjas with Kekkei Genkai. In the sight of the Tenseigan, Hinata could clearly see the changes in his arm. The combination of talent and Tenseigan really produced a magical change. The Tenseigan allowed Hinata to have the blood of Otsutsuki, and a little bit of the power of the Jubi. These forces supported Hinata to open the Tenseigan. Hinata's talent hack, on the other hand, infinitely strengthened the potential of these two powers. Yes, before Hinata crossed over, he did wish to be able to beat Uchiha Madara. But is beating Uchiha Madara the limit of Hinata? Obviously, there was a bug in Hinata's wish. If Hinata has been practicing for 3 days and 2 days, Hinata may have the strength to beat Madara at the age of 100. But hard work can speed up this process. Hinata's previous absorption of Urushi's chakra had greatly increased Hinata's strength. The talent cheat was just a kind of talent, not the limit of one's strength. If Hinata had wished to have the power to beat Madara, then this power would have been Hinata's limit. However, Hinata's wish was to obtain this kind of power through cultivation. In that case, what Hinata possessed was talent, not the limit of power. When the Tenseigan opened, Hinata awakened the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan in his body, as well as the Jubi chakra necessary for the Tenseigan opening. This potential was developed to the extreme. Perhaps it could not be considered a Bug. Talent and the limits of strength were ultimately different. Hinata had never realized this before. It wasn't until the Tenseigan opened and assimilated the heterogeneous power in Hinata's body that Hinata discovered the true potential of the talent hack. So, I'm really a hardworking ninja. Hinata unceremoniously labeled himself as a hardworking ninja. I'm different from Naruto and Sasuke. I'm obviously Shaoli, the type of person who can defeat geniuses through hard work. While absorbing Kimimaro's chakra to maintain the survival of Kimimaro's blood, Hinata's thoughts were running wild. Without the support of Kimimaro's chakra, Hinata could only obtain a little bit of Shiketsumiyaku's power if he only used the power of yin-yang release to integrate Kimimaro's cells. Of course, after the assimilation of power, Hinata can also strengthen the power of Shiketsumiyaku through cultivation and development. But this process is extremely long, probably equivalent to Kimimaro's cultivation process from childhood to adulthood. However, by absorbing Kimimaro's chakra and strengthening the power of Kimimaro's cells, this process can be greatly shortened, and Hinata can even directly have the power of Kimimaro in his heyday. Orochimaru's eyes flashed with excitement, and his tone was excited. Is this Yamato's secret? Yamato's would release is far worse than Hashirama's, and it's even worse than Hashirama's Edo Tensei during Konoha's collapse plan. Orochimaru also had some guesses before, but after seeing Hinata's process of integrating Shiketsumiyaku, Orochimaru completely understood the secret of Yamato's power. Yamato was indeed lucky. As an experimental body that integrated Hashirama's cells without dying, he had the ability to use would release. But Yamato's would release could only be used by the little bit of Hashirama's cells in his body, not by his own ability. Would release was an external force for Yamato. Yamato could actually strengthen the power of would release through cultivation, but his talent wasn't enough to support him to do this. Without a sage body, without a huge vitality, would release was just for show. Kimimaro's cells were constantly being absorbed, assimilated, and strengthened in Hinata's body. In this process, Hinata already had the power of Shikitsumiyaku. Fortunately, the Edo Tensei has unlimited chakra, which saves a lot of trouble. But this power has a limit after all. Hinata was still a little dissatisfied. If he could only do it to the level of Kimimaro, then this power wouldn't matter at all. Shikitsumiyaku and Gentle Fist were both taijutsu types. If they couldn't be developed to the level of killing the gray bones, Shikitsumiyaku wouldn't be practical at all. As if seeing through Hinata's thoughts, Black Zetsu said indifferently, if you want to develop Shikitsumiyaku to the level of a Kekkei Genkai, Kimimaro's power alone can't do it. Hinata nodded in agreement and stopped absorbing Kimimaro's chakra. The cells on his arm lost the support of strength, and were gradually assimilated by Hinata's skin into the same color. Chakra in his body moved slightly, and a white bone pierced out of Hinata's palm. Hinata sensed it for a moment, and then took the bone back into his body. This level is barely acceptable. Turning his head to look at Orochimaru, Hinata continued. Next is wood release. Orochimaru's eyes bloomed with unconcealable excitement, and the smile on his face gradually became fierce. Everything he experienced today was very magical for Orochimaru. Hinata's dojutsu, Hinata's interpretation of natural energy, the whole process of Hinata's integration with Shikitsumiyaku, and the Kekkei Genkai mentioned by Black Zetsu. All of this opened a new door for Orochimaru. The whole world seemed to be clear. Although Orochimaru didn't want to admit that perfection really existed, Hinata's body was perfect for Orochimaru. The huge chakra, the huge vitality, the powerful dojutsu, the newly acquired Shikitsumiyaku, and the upcoming wood release. If all of these can be perfectly integrated, then Hinata's body is undoubtedly close to perfection. How did this happen? Even if Orochimaru already knew that as long as he got Sasuke's body, grabbed Itachi Uchiha's eyes, and integrated with Hashirama's cells, he had a chance to become the next Hagoromo Sannin. However, Nagato's example told Orochimaru that even if he opened the Rinnegan, becoming the next Hagoromo Sannin was just wishful thinking. There was still a long way to go. It's perfect. Orochimaru unconsciously stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Chapter 352. There is no fairness in the ninja world. What Orochimaru has been pursuing for half of his life, Hinata can easily have it all. In the future, Naruto and Sasuke will also have all of this. In the case of not being able to get it, some people will use heart to disguise these things. Just like the dialogue between Tsunade and Uchiha Madara in the original work. Uchiha Madara said that after the death of Hashirama, his power was inherited by himself, while Tsunade said that she inherited the will of Hashirama. At first, it seems that Tsunade's words are very reasonable. She inherited the will of her ancestors and carried forward this will. But if you think about it carefully, this is like a helpless lie, and it can't stand up to scrutiny at all. If possible, why wouldn't Tsunade want to inherit Hashirama's wood release? In this world, only with strength can you do everything and refuse all sadness. Without strength, nothing can be done. The sadness of ninjas is precisely because of their lack of strength. Tsunade, Kakashi, they all failed to protect their companions because of their lack of strength. Orochimaru has already seen through all of this and can accept all of this, but he won't succumb to all of this. This may be the biggest difference between reality and dreams. Dreams are always beautiful, but reality is full of cruelty. Infinite Tsukuyomi may be a cruel dream, but isn't reality a cruel world beautified with dreams? Speaking of which, Hinata still admires people like Orochimaru who can recognize reality. Of course, everyone pursues different things, and Hinata can't judge others with his own ideas. Da-da-da. In the empty stone room, footsteps were soft. Orochimaru walked to an abandoned experimental body and took out a scroll from the ninja bag. After opening the scroll, Orochimaru quickly printed with his hands. Open. In a burst of smoke, a glass bottle containing milky white liquid appeared on the scroll. Are these Hashirama cells? Hinata walked to the experiment table and picked up the bottle. He looked at it and asked with a puzzled expression, "Is it diluted?" Orochimaru chuckled and explained, "These are the most primitive cells, different from those cloned ones." Hinata turned to look at Ju. As for Hashirama's cells, Zetsu must have them in his hands. White Zetsu's material was similar to Hashirama's cells. Black Zetsu had no intention of concealing it. After checking the liquid in the glass bottle, he said faintly, "The power of Mokuton comes from the divine tree, not the power of the Otsutsuki clan. Compared to Hashirama's cells, the current White Zetsu is a little worse." Hinata nodded slightly. In Hinata's previous speculation, White Zetsu was a weapon that had yet to be successfully cultivated. Ninja World's Jutsu fruit takes 1,000 years to mature, so White Zetsu theoretically needs to be cultivated for 1,000 years. If a Jutsu can only bear one chakra fruit, then the White Zetsu army cultivated by Otsutsuki Kagaya may have the power of one chakra fruit. However, the plan to cultivate White Zetsu was destroyed by Hagoromo Sanin. So all of this was just speculation. The power of White Zetsu may not be enough, but Hashirama's cells are inherited through inheritance, and in terms of quality, it surpasses the power of White Zetsu. Divine Tree. Orochimaru silently remembered Black Zetsu's words. The information revealed by Hinata and Black Zetsu's casual conversation was extremely important for Orochimaru. Hinata was also silently calculating in his heart. The power of Mokuton comes from the divine tree. As long as Hinata integrates with Hashirama's cells, he can perfect the power of the Jubi in Hinata's body. The power of the Jubi obtained through the Tensigen cheat is actually only enough for Hinata to open the Tensigen. It doesn't have the ability of Mokuton. However, the cheat opens this limit, allowing Hinata to perfect his bloodline power through fusion, absorption, and assimilation. Let's try it first. Hinata took a deep breath and silently encouraged himself. With Hinata's current strength, even if there is an accident during the fusion process, Hinata can instantly expel Hashirama's cells from his body. Taking out a new syringe, Hinata sucked the liquid from the glass bottle into the syringe and injected it into his arm. On his white arm, a piece of pale skin was extremely dazzling. The vitality contained in Hashirama's cells was much stronger than the power of the Shiketsumiyaku. Orochimaru's eyes were staring at Hinata's arm. "Do you need to summon Hashirama?" Black Zetsu said lightly. "Hashirama's power is different from Kimimara's, this is enough. And what Hinata needs is not the power of Mokuton, but to perfect his bloodline. As long as Hinata can make up for the missing part of the power in his body, then Hinata may become an independent Jubi's Jinchuriki. Of course, Hinata, the Jubi's Jinchuriki, still needs to be cultivated." Black Zetsu looked at Hinata and reminded, "The power is rejecting, fuse with the power of yin-yang release. If it still doesn't work, expel Hashirama's cells from your body. I heard that girls care more about their appearance. I guess you don't want other colors on your body." Hinata certainly doesn't want a pale mark on his skin. Even if it's just a little bit, Hinata can't accept it. If Hashirama's face appears on his body like Uchiha Madara and Shimura Danzo, Hinata would rather die. Yin-yang release is known as the power to create and destroy the world. It's not difficult to fuse with Hashirama's cells. And the power of the Tensigen is enough to suppress Hashirama's cells. However, what Hinata really cares about is whether he can perfectly fuse with this power. If it affects his appearance, then Hinata can only give up on Mokuton. What a magical ability! Orochimaru's pupils slightly widened, and he couldn't help but stick out his tongue in excitement. Hinata's bloodline power didn't disappoint Hinata's expectations. When Hinata used yin-yang release to fuse with Hashirama's cells, his bloodline power immediately began to assimilate this power. At this moment, even Black Zetsu felt that something was wrong. Hinata is the descendant of Otsutsuki Hamura, but Hamura didn't inherit Mokuton. The reason why Hamura and Hagoromo can't inherit all of Kagaya's power is because Kagaya's power is too strong, so they can only inherit a part of it. It's the same for Azura and Indra. The Hyuga clan is the descendant of Hamura. It stands to reason that Hinata can only suppress the power of Hashirama's cells by force. Hinata's perfect fusion is something that even Hamura can't do. What did Hamura do? With Black Zetsu's knowledge, he can't understand this situation at all. Could it be that Hinata has both Hamura and Hagoromo's blood in her body? Then isn't she? Chapter 353. Hinata said that she had seen Otsutsuki Himura. Black Zetsu completely believed it. Because if Hinata hasn't seen Himura, it can't explain why Hinata knows so much about the past, and why Hinata has such a strong physique. The Hyuga clan only inherited Himura's dojutsu, and the one left on the moon inherited Himura's physique. Hinata said that Himura regretted sealing her mother, Kagaya Otsutsuki. Black Zetsu was actually skeptical about this. Himura may not regret it, but he must have discovered Black Zetsu's conspiracy. It's just that this era is no longer their era, so Otsutsuki Himura made the choice through the hands of his descendants. This era belongs to Hinata's generation, and the future of the ninja world should be decided by Hinata's generation. This should be Otsutsuki Himura's true thoughts. That's why Himura gave his power to Hinata, so that Hinata has the ability to control all of this. Because of this, for Black Zetsu, Hinata standing on his side was completely unexpected. If Hinata chooses to stand on the opposite side of Black Zetsu, with Hinata's strength, it will definitely be a disaster, and Kagaya may never be able to be resurrected. Because Hinata's behavior is a decision made by Hinata's own will, Black Zetsu trusts Hinata. However, what really shocked Black Zetsu is what Himura did to Hinata. Hinata's power was given to her by Otsutsuki Himura, there was no doubt about it. But if Himura only gave his power to Hinata, then Hinata can't perfectly integrate with Hashirama's cells. Because Himura's blood is not dense enough, his blood is not enough to support his integration with Hagoromo's power. So this is the power of Mother. Black Zetsu could only make this explanation. Hinata didn't inherit Himura's power, but Kagaya's power. Because of this, Hinata can integrate all kinds of power, because the source of all power in the ninja world is Kagaya. So Himura still had this trick up his sleeve. Black Zetsu's heart was a little complicated, but he was also a little excited. Maybe it's because Hinata chose to stand on Mother's side, so Himura gave this power to her. Hagoromo, I'm afraid you didn't expect that Himura would give you Mother's power. Thinking of this, a new question appeared in Black Zetsu's heart. Otsutsuki Himura had always supported Hagoromo Sanin. So what happened that made Himura change his attitude? 1,000 years ago, in order to guard Kagaya's seal, Himura would rather give up his freedom died alone on the moon. What kind of firm willpower was this? Because of this, Black Zetsu was skeptical of Hinata's words. Is it because of the ninja world? Black Zetsu could only make such an explanation. It was because he saw the thousands of years of fighting on the moon that made Himura think of the peace of the world. Perhaps because of the threat of the other Otsutsuki, Himura understood Kagaya's approach. The onlooker sees the game clearly. The ninja world was created by the Hagoromo, so the Hagoromo will never admit that this world is wrong. For the Hagoromo, the ninja world is like his own child. A father will always tolerate the mistakes made by his child. But Himura is not necessarily the same. He has always looked at the ninja world from the perspective of a bystander, and he has seen through the complexity and desire of people. If this speculation is correct, then Himura's idea can be explained. Black Zetsu's eyes flashed. He could only speculate from Hinata, and come to such a conclusion. Hagoromo, now you are the only one left. Your brother has betrayed you. And the reincarnation of Azura and Indra. If there is anything in this world that can make Black Zetsu excited, then except for the resurrection of Otsutsuki Kagaya, perhaps it is to see his enemy, the Hagoromo, suffer. As the saying goes, I'm relieved to see that you're not doing well. If he can see the betrayal of the Hagoromo, Black Zetsu may be excited to dance. Yes, there is also the scroll. Black Zetsu suddenly remembered the scroll Hinata gave to Orochimaru before. Black Zetsu didn't care at first, he didn't even look at it carefully, but just by glancing at the content, Black Zetsu knew that it was about the analysis of natural energy. However, in addition to natural energy, Hinata also recorded his analysis of the 3 Holy Lands. Does Hinata want to fight against the 3 Holy Lands? And Orochimaru is Hinata's sword? Heiju was already gnashing his teeth in hatred for the toad that had tried to sow discord in Mount Mayaboku. It's just that Black Zetsu has been focusing on the resurrection of Otsutsuki Kagaya, so he didn't pay too much attention to the 3 Holy Lands. Anyway, as long as Otsutsuki Kagaya is resurrected, the 3 Holy Lands can be razed to the ground. But not caring doesn't mean that he doesn't hate. And Hinata, as a human, has complicated human feelings. So Hinata has scruples about Mount Myaboku and Shikatsu Forest, but not so much about the Ryuchi Cave. If Orochimaru can get benefits from the Ryuchi Cave, then Orochimaru will. No. With Orochimaru's character, he may use the power of the Ryuchi Cave to deal with Mount Myaboku and Shikatsu Forest. Looking at Orochimaru, Black Zetsu secretly planned. Maybe Orochimaru needs to be guided. This guy is really a sharp sword. And I have to find an opportunity to understand Hinata's thoughts. Hinata didn't know that in this short period of time, Black Zetsu's brain filled with a lot of ideas. Hinata didn't even think that the abnormality in his body would make Black Zetsu think of so many things. Because Hinata thought that he was quite normal. Well, in fact, Hinata himself forgot the words he said to Black Zetsu, so Hinata didn't avoid these things in front of Black Zetsu. The process of fusing with Hashirama's cells was smooth. Hinata is now equivalent to an incomplete Otsutsuki Kagaya. And he is recovering his full strength. As long as it's related to the power of Otsutsuki and the Jubi, Hinata can absorb and assimilate it into his own strength. If it weren't for the fact that Hinata only had 2 eye sockets, she could have even fused a pair of Sharingan into herself. It's done. Hinata looked down at his hands and quietly felt the changes in his heart. His physique has been further strengthened. It's more appropriate to say that it's further improvement. The strength of the bones and the quality of vitality have some subtle changes. Then the next step is to use stronger strength to upgrade these abilities to the level of Kekkei Tensei. Urushi. Chapter 354. Thank you. Looking up at Orochimaru, Hinata's sweet face had a strange smile that was incompatible with her appearance. I have got what I want, and I hope you can get what you want. Orochimaru's hoarse voice sounded. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. Da-da-da. With light footsteps, Hinata turned and walked out of the stone room, through the corridor, and all the way out of the gloomy cave. It's still a bit hard to adapt, this feeling of being a behind-the-scenes big boss. Hinata rubbed his face and restored himself to his original state as soon as possible. Now that he has integrated the power of Shikatsu Myaku and Mokuton, Hinata doesn't want to delay. The white Zetsu substitute left in the Hyuga residence is a hidden danger after all. Many people in Shinobu have been watching Hinata. Jumping on the tree, Hinata rushed in the direction of Shinobu. To continue to perfect the power of the bloodline, the 9-tailed beasts are indispensable. Hinata previously guessed that Otsutsuki Kagaya also has the ability of ice release, but thinking about it carefully, the Kekkei Genkai of ice release doesn't seem to be inherited from Otsutsuki Kagaya. As for the power of the Uzumaki clan, this long-lived clan with a huge amount of chakra has always been mysterious. In the future, he will find an opportunity to contact Karen and see what is special about the physique of this clan. Zetsu. Hinata, who was walking quickly through the woods, suddenly stopped. Standing on the trunk, Hinata looked surprised and said, "Is there anything else?" On the trunk opposite Hinata, Zetsu slowly stretched out half of his body. "You want to deal with the 3 Holy Lands?" Black Zetsu asked straightforwardly. "The scroll you gave to Orochimaru is not without purpose, right?" "Hehe. You found out." Hinata chuckled and had no intention to hide this matter. "Don't you think the existence of the 3 Holy Lands is a bit too much of an eyesore for us? The essence of life evolution is plunder. We and the 3 Holy Lands are natural enemies, unless you are willing to give up on this world." For the time being, Hinata had no idea what the source of nature energy was. However, even if natural energy was an inexhaustible source of energy, the 3 Holy Lands had monopolized so much of it. This had indirectly harmed the interests of others. Black Zu said noncommittally, "Orochimaru may not be tempted by that scroll alone." "Don't I still have you?" Hinata looked at Black Zetsu and said, "With you helping me, things will be much easier." Black Ju stared at Hinata for a moment. He wanted to know more about Hinata's bloodline, but he could not ask such a secret directly. "Right?" Hinata suddenly asked. "Have you been keeping an eye on the situation at the 5 Shadow Conference?" Black Zetsu said in a deep voice. "There is bordered soil watching over there. There won't be too much of a problem. Akatsuki hasn't done anything to the Bijou yet, and the 5 great shinobi villages have been hostile to each other for many years. Even if they can temporarily resolve the conflict, they can't cooperate with each other wholeheartedly. Do you know what is the greatest advantage of human beings? Hinata asked and answered his own question. The greatest advantage of human beings is that human beings are constantly improving. Years of war will always make some people want peace. Human progress is not only in strength, but also in the heart. Hinata finally reminded him. Black Setsu, you'd better not look at the 5 great shinobi villages with the eyes of the past. Be careful not to suffer a big loss. Black Setsu's face showed a strange smile, and his tone was low and seemed to have a hint of ridicule. Hinata, do you know what is the greatest weakness of human beings? Black Setsu also asked and answered his own question. The greatest weakness of human beings is that they are too self-centered, whether they are adults or children. They are all the same. The 5 great shinobi villages yearn for peace. Nagato yearns for peace. Bordered Soil also yearns for peace. But the peace they want must be created by themselves. The strong will never easily accept the peace created by others. That's why the word compromise appeared in this world. However, only the weak will compromise the 5 great shinobi villages. They are the forces of balance. Hinata may be right with the progress and development of the world. Even the ninjas who used to be killing machines have some different ideas in their hearts. Ninjas began to yearn for freedom and peace. Some people regard this change as the light of hope. But self-centered people always want others to accept their own ideas, instead of accepting others' ideas themselves. Black Setsu finally concluded. So, in your human world, no, in the world of all species, you can only rely on strength to speak. I have lived in the human world for thousands of years, and humans are the best at beautifying the cruel reality. Obviously, everything is based on strength, but they use words such as dreams and rules to cover up all of this. And those who don't cover up their actions will be labeled as evil. Looking at Hinata, Black Setsu said in a deep voice, Hinata, don't be too naive. If there were no organizations, the 4th Shinobi World War would have already started. Hinata. Why am I being lectured by Black Setsu? Forget it. Hinata was a little dispirited and said lightly, if there is nothing else, I will go back first. Black Setsu didn't answer, and Hinata jumped up, stepped on Black Setsu's side, and rushed in the direction of Shinobu. Things are getting more and more interesting. Black Setsu looked at Hinata's back that was getting smaller and smaller, and said in a low voice, seeing Hinata reminds me of the time when I was guiding Indra. White Setsu was surprised. Isn't she already on our side? She is indeed on our side, Black Setsu said. But that's not enough. Naruto and Sasuke can't be controlled, and if they believe in Hagoromo, then Hinata's position is extremely ambiguous. White Setsu wondered, will she betray us? Black Setsu said in a deep voice. What Hinata wants is power, not to be on our side. Hinata wants what she wants, and it's not only her mother who can give it to her. So, a person can't just pursue strength. One day, she will want to change the world. Black Setsu was convinced that when Hinata has absolute power, Hinata will have the idea of changing the world. Because this is human nature. People who have power and are self-centered, they will think that everything they do is right. Black Setsu had seen too many people like this, and he knew that Hinata would one day take this step as well. Changing the world is a great dream, and people who have this dream will unconsciously put themselves in the role of righteous. As long as Hinata has such an idea, Naruto and Sasuke will no longer be able to influence Hinata. Chapter 355. This is Genjutsu Space? On the way back to Shinobu, this was the second time Hinata was stopped by someone. The first time was Black Setsu, and the second time. There are not many people in the ninja world who can do this. I heard that the Sage of the Six Paths, who once spread Shinobu, still has chakra drifting in the world, walking in the eternal cycle of reincarnation. Standing in the Genjutsu space, Hinata calmly looked around. All around him was a world of white light, as if there was no end. In the white light world, a figure appeared out of thin air. He had a slightly aged face, white hair, and pale skin that was completely different from ordinary people. He was dressed in a white robe, and the two sides of his collar were printed with the pattern of 6 Magatama. "Sure enough, it's you, Sage of the 6 Paths," Hinata calmly asked. "You finally can't sit still." "You're very calm." Sage of the 6 Paths' voice sounded very kind, just like Naruto of the 3 generations. He was like a gentle old man facing his naughty younger generation, somewhat tolerant, but also somewhat reproachful. "Although I don't know how you know these things, your behavior will bring a huge disaster to the world," Sage of the 6 Paths said calmly. "Since you know the existence of Mother, you should know how extreme her thoughts are. She is too greedy, and she will destroy the world." Hinata curiously asked, "You want to persuade me to stop?" By the way, Hinata pointed his finger at Sage of the 6 Paths, and said with a face full of blame, "How long have you been secretly peeping at me? When I was taking a bath and sleeping, you wouldn't hide and peep at me, right?" Sage of the 6 Paths: "I would never do that." It's about the innocence of the old man, so Sage of the 6 Paths firmly denied it. "2 questions. Hinata stretched out 2 fingers and faintly said, "It's no longer your era. The matters of the younger generation should be solved by the younger generation." The old man from 1,000 years ago suddenly intervened in the matters of 1,000 years later. What's the meaning of this? Nostalgia? Also, since you know about me, you should know what I'm thinking. I have the ability to convince Ancestor Huiyi to give up on her plan to cultivate White Zetsu. Do you have any other questions? The Immortal of 6 Paths shook his head and sighed. "Although my time has passed, I have always been protecting this world. Don't try to trick me just because I'm young." Before the Sage of the 6 Paths could finish his sentence, Hinata interrupted. "Are you protecting the world? The shinobi world has been fighting for thousands of years, but I have never seen you come out to stop it. So in my opinion, you are only guarding the inheritance of ninja sect, guarding the ninja sect you created. You are not guarding the world at all." Hinata has thought about this question more than once. Since Hagoromo's chakra has been drifting in the world, why did he turn a blind eye to the 1,000 years of fighting in the shinobi world? Was it because he didn't have the power to stop it? Hagoromo Sunin shook his head slightly and said indifferently, "The sorrow of the ninja world was caused by me. But as you said before, my time has passed. In this era, there will eventually be a child of destiny who belongs to this era to change the world." But, speaking of this, the Sage of the 6 Paths looked directly at Hinata, and the lavender Rinnegan in his eyes exuded a faint majesty. "Your existence has changed the trajectory of fate, and the world has changed because of it. I don't know whether your decision is right or wrong, but destroying the 3 holy lands and lifting the seal on Mother will definitely bring disaster to this world." Hinata rubbed his eyes and snorted. "If the child of destiny you speak of is really so powerful, then the trajectory of fate won't be changed because of me." "Hagoromo Sunin, you are fooling me like a child," Hinata chuckled. "Perhaps the purpose of your existence is to seal Ancestor Huiyi, but in my opinion, the world created by Ancestor Huiyi is more peaceful than the world you created. The reason why Huiyi made a mistake is because of greed, and the reason why you made a mistake is because of ignorance. You don't understand human nature at all, but you hope that chakra can make people understand each other. This is nonsense." Looking at the Sage of the 6 Paths, Hinata sneered. "It seems that we can't talk. But fighting is often the best way to distinguish right from wrong. Come on." The Sage of the 6 Paths shook his head and said, "I can't fight now. I came to see you hoping to persuade you to stop." Hinata retorted, "Your eyes have been fixed on the shinobi world, but my eyes have seen the world outside. Perhaps your eyes are stronger than mine, but my heart is bigger than yours. The eyes are the window to the soul, and the bigger the heart, the bigger the world can be seen. Since you have been paying attention to me, then you should know that Otsutsuki's people have come to the shinobi world, and they are not as easy to talk to as I am," the Sage of the 6 Paths said lightly. "Even without Mother, this world can resist them." Hinata tilted his head and said playfully, "What if I want to fight back against Otsutsuki?" The Sage of the 6 Paths: "Oh, you really have a big heart." The Sage of the 6 Paths sighed helplessly. and after a moment of silence he looked at Hinata and continued. It seems that I can't persuade you, since my era has passed. Then let the people of this era stop you. After that, the Sage of the Six Paths figure slowly disappeared, and the illusion of the white world dissipated instantly. Hinata still maintained the posture of shuttling through the forest, and rushed in the direction of Shinobu. Hinata stopped. I didn't expect that even the Sage of the Six Paths would appear. It seems that he can't tolerate me continuing to change the trajectory of this world. But this also means that he has felt the crisis. Whether the Sage of the Six Paths will directly attack or not, Hinata didn't know for the time being, but obviously, the Sage of the Six Paths didn't intend to fight with Hinata now. Since the Sage of the Six Paths doesn't intend to attack, then he can only use Mount Mayaboku. Hinata instantly thought of Mount Mayaboku. Perhaps the great Toad Sage of Mount Mayaboku will show Jiraiya some so-called prophecies, and the image of Hinata in this prophecy is definitely not righteous. In this way, the Sage of the Six Paths can influence Hinata through Jiraiya and Naruto. And this matter is related to Hinata. Jiraiya won't hide it from Tsunade. Humph. Shaking his head, if everything is as Hinata expected, then the next thing will indeed be more troublesome. But Hinata is not afraid. I am not the same person as before. Kuroto touched his eyes. With the power of the Tensigen, there is no power in the ninja world that can kill Hinata. And in this space, there is still chakra waiting for Hinata. Chapter 356. Hagoromo Sannin came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Hinata was still a little confused. Did Hagoromo Sannin appear just to say a few words to him? Hagoromo Sannin shouldn't be so naive. Countless examples in the ninja world have proven that if you want to persuade someone, you must first defeat the other party. It's useless to rely on words alone. The fist is the absolute truth. Hinata didn't believe that Hagoromo Sannin couldn't do anything. In the manga, not only did Hagoromo Sannin give his power to Naruto and Sasuke, but he also used a ninjutsu similar to the Edo Tensei to summon the souls of the 5 Kages from the Pure Land of Bliss, and jointly used the summoning technique to transfer Team 7 and the 9-tailed beasts from Kagaya's primordial sphere. Hinata can be sure that Hagoromo Sennin's body is dead, but his soul is immortal with chakra. This may be related to the Jubi. Hagoromo Sannin should have obtained some kind of power from the Jubi. What does Hagoromo Sannin want to do? Hinata scratched his head in distress. If Hagoromo Sannin wanted to stop Hinata, the best way was to use force. However, not only did Hagoromo Sannin not fight with Hinata, but his persuasion was also insincere. At least Hinata didn't feel the sincerity of Hagoromo Sannin. If he wanted to buy Hinata, he should at least give him a few divine artifacts to show his sincerity. Even if there's no divine artifact, the Moonlight Cash will do. However, Hagoromo Sannin just moved his mouth. Hinata believed that Hagoromo Sannin had an obsession with the ninja world, and for the ninja sect he created, it was his spiritual sustenance. Everyone has feelings for their own works that outsiders can't understand. Whether the establishment of ninja sect was right or wrong, it doesn't matter to Hagoromo Sannin. Even if ninja sect was a mistake, Hagoromo Sannin will guide ninja sect to a better future. And he can't sit back and watch ninja sect be destroyed. Does Hagoromo Sannin just want me to know that he still exists? Hinata racked his brains and finally came to this conclusion. Or is the immortal of the 6 paths so arrogant that he thinks he can convince me with just a few words? Hinata shook his head slightly. The 6 paths immortal's actions were unpredictable, and Hinata could not figure out what the 6 paths immortal's goal was. He could only put it aside for the time being and wait until he had more clues. With a slight movement, Hinata continued to run in the direction of Konoha. In the void, the immortal of the 6 paths stared at Hinata's figure. After a long silence, he could only sigh helplessly. His tone was filled with sadness. The 6 paths immortal truly loved this world, and he didn't want to return to the Pure Land because he still had a deep obsession with this world. However, without all the beautiful words, the ninja world was a work of Hagoromo Sannin. This work carried all the spiritual sustenance of Hagoromo Sannin, and it interfered with the direction of this world in the name of love. It's like parents always like to interfere with the behavior of their children with the words good for you. Those self-righteous love often deprive others of the right to choose freely, and even hurt others. The Six Paths Immortal's love for the ninja world is beyond anything, and he sincerely wants this world to be better. But this is better. It must be guided by the Six Paths Immortal, and any interference beyond his control will not be allowed by the Six Paths Immortal. This is called possessiveness. Just like Shinobu's Naruto position must be inherited by the relationship of master and disciple. Many people said that the death of Shinobu's White Fang was because his existence had threatened Naruto's position. As a strong person who was not part of Naruto's faction, Shinobu's higher-ups didn't want to see Shinobu's White Fang succeed Naruto's position. And the resurrection of Otsutsuki Kagaya will undoubtedly have a huge impact on the ninja world. So even if Hinata said that he was sure to persuade Otsutsuki Kagaya to give up the plan of training White Zetsu, Hagoromo Sannin didn't want Otsutsuki Kagaya to be resurrected. The right and wrong of 1,000 years ago is no longer important today. Love is selfish. Hagoromo Sennin's love for the ninja world is also selfish. Hagoromo Sannin took the initiative to appear this time, and he did prepare a long speech to persuade Hinata to repent. However, Hinata's attitude was extremely firm, and Hinata even denied everything about Hagoromo Sannin. Hinata believes that the Kagaya era is better than the ninja era, and it is more suitable for this world. There is no need to persuade him at all. More importantly, Hagoromo Sannin felt a very familiar aura from Hinata. Is it Hamura, or Mother? Hagoromo Sannin was also wondering what Hinata's secret is. Hagoromo Sannin even thought that Hinata may be the reincarnation of Otsutsuki Kagaya. This possibility is not impossible, and Hinata's bloodline undoubtedly proves this point. It is not something that Hamura can do. Besides Black Zetsu, does Mother have any other trump cards? Hagoromo Sannin kept thinking. Could it be that before Mother was sealed, she left her power in this world? Black Zetsu guessed that Hamura saved a trace of Kagaya's power 1,000 years ago, and gave it to Hinata. But Hagoromo Sannin knew that this is absolutely impossible, because Hamura has no chance at all. When Kagaya was first sealed, Hamura has always been on the side of Hagoromo Sannin. Even if Hamura later changed his position, he would never be able to get Kagaya's power. In Hagoromo Sennin's view, there is only one possibility for Hinata's secret. Otsutsuki Kagaya and chakra remained in the ninja world, and after thousands of years of evolution, this chakra was finally reincarnated into Hinata's body, just like Indra and Azura. Sigh. Hagoromo Sannin sighed deeply, and his figure slowly disappeared from the void. Some things have to be done even if there is no other choice. In the evening, Hinata finally returned to the vicinity of Shinobu. Although this trip was less than 24 hours, Hinata's experience was very exciting. Especially the appearance of Hagoromo Sannin made Hinata feel that the world is getting more and more interesting. And at the same time, he also felt a sense of urgency. Hagoromo Sannin will definitely make a move, and Hinata must be prepared. Tensigen. Opening the Tensigen, Hinata entered the Tensigen chakra mode, and using the repulsion force, Hinata leaped into the sky. Although it's a bit early, it's better not to leave this hidden danger behind. Originally, Hinata wanted to find Naruto first, and let Naruto have a share of the chakra. After all, this is what he promised Sasuke a long time ago, and Hinata doesn't want to break his promise. However, the situation is changing, and Hinata has to become stronger as soon as possible. He can only wait for the opportunity to give the chakra to Naruto in the future. Next, Hinata's opponent may be the Three Holy Lands. Hinata also wanted to see what kind of trump card the Three Holy Lands had been hiding for so many years. The relationship between Mount Myaboku and Ryuchi Cave is not good. If Hinata and Orochimaru join forces to deal with Ryuchi Cave, what will Mount Myaboku choose? Chapter 357. Floating above space, Hinata quietly looked at the meteorite in front of him. The Otsutsuki Museum style was sealed in this meteorite. Hinata's Tensigen evolved from the Byakugan. This eye not only has the ability of the Byakugan, but also the ability of the Byakugan to the extreme. Hinata could clearly see everything in the Chibaku Tensei meteorite. Otsutsuki had fallen asleep. The Yin-Yang seal sealed Otsutsuki's chakra, and the Chibaku Tensei sealed Otsutsuki's movements. Before being sealed, Sasuke and Sunflower worked together to extract Urashi's chakra. At this moment, Urashi was no longer as powerful as before. His current strength was only a little stronger than Nagato's. The truth-seeking ball with green light floated to Hinata's hand. Hinata. If Hinata still had any dissatisfaction with the Tensigen, it might be this color. He didn't know when it started, but green became the original color. Green is obviously the color of nature, the color that symbolizes life, but now it has become a color that everyone hates. So even if Hinata knew that green was the symbol of life, he still couldn't accept being enveloped in green light, and there were 9 green truth-seeking balls floating behind him. Fortunately, I wasn't going to get married, otherwise, I would have to prepare a hatchet at all times. Hinata muttered. Fortunately, there is no such thing as the color of forgiveness in the shinobi world, otherwise, Hinata would really have no face to see anyone. Wait a minute. He remembered that in the original Naruto, the only person who almost made Naruto green was the guy with green light all over his body. However, Hinata, who was deeply in love with Otsutsuki, finally married Naruto. This green is really not a good color. Poor Tonari, he lost because of the color. Green is not as good as gold. After thinking for a long time, Hinata shook her head, and threw some strange thoughts to the back of her mind. Now is not the time to think about this. The golden chakra lightsaber soared into the sky, shining brilliantly in this boundless dark universe. At this moment, all the light from the stars was covered by this light sword. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Facing the meteorite in front of him, the golden chakra lightsaber slashed straight at it. The Chibaku Tensei meteorite was like a piece of tofu, easily cut into 2 halves by the golden lightsaber. Hinata used his X-ray vision to avoid Pushur, and the golden light sword cut close to Pushur. Bam! The golden chakra light blade slashed across, and with a muffled sound, the Chibaku Tensei meteorite was cut into 2 halves. Smoke and dust rose in all directions as the meteorite split into 2, and began to slowly move to both sides. Activating the repulsive force, Hinata pushed half of the meteorites far away. His eyes locked onto the center of the other half. At this moment, the large cylinder was embedded in the middle of this half of the meteorite. The power of the Yin-Yang seal was still there, and the Otsutsuki was still unable to move. Hinata flew over. Pushur, floating in front of Pushur, Hinata whispered. We meet again. Otsutsuki opened his eyes and looked at Hinata with extremely gloomy eyes. It's you, Tensigen. Seeing Hinata's eyes, Pushur was shocked. Your eyes? Have you already obtained these eyes? This is impossible. You can't have the Tensigen at this time. Otsutsuki couldn't believe that Hinata had already obtained the Tensigen. This is thanks to your power. Hinata reached out and touched his chin, chuckling. After absorbing your chakra, the growth of the eyes has accelerated a lot. Pushur, your resurrection plan has failed. Otsutsuki. From the first sight of Hinata, Otsutsuki knew that he was finished. Not to mention that he had no power at the moment. Even if he had power, he was definitely not Hinata's opponent. Hyogo's Rinnegan was indeed the hope of Pushur's resurrection. And the time Otsutsuki was waiting for was 2 years later, the moment when Otsutsuki Kagaya was resurrected. As long as Hyogo's Rinnegan echoed with another pair of Rinnegan, Otsutsuki could take over Hyogo's body and resurrect from Hyogo's body. Originally, Otsutsuki only had a glimmer of hope. As long as Rinnegan was still in this world, he had a chance to be resurrected. However, when Hinata appeared, all of Otsutsuki's illusions were shattered. I originally wanted to ask you if you have any last words. But someone once said that the villain dies because he talks too much. I don't want to make the victory declaration into the last words. As soon as the words fell, Hinata didn't wait for Otsutsuki Kagaya to speak. The 4 truth-seeking balls behind him turned into iron rods and pierced into Pushur's limbs. While blocking his movements, he also blocked Pushur's chakra. Although the Tensigen has the ability to absorb chakra, Hinata wants the body of the sacred tree in Otsutsuki Kagaya's body, not his chakra. The body of the sacred tree has been integrated with Pushur, Absorbing the body of the sacred tree is equivalent to absorbing Pushur himself. Therefore, Hinata must kill Otsutsuki Kagaya mentally, not physically. Before that, Hinata stretched out his right hand, and a green chakra light ball appeared out of thin air. Spiritual ball. Put the spiritual ball into the body of others. Not only can it control the will and actions of others, but it can also seize other people's thoughts. The Otsutsuki clan has a tradition of leaving power to their descendants, and Otsutsuki Kagaya, as the head of this clan, naturally knows this tradition. After seizing Pushur's thoughts, Hinata can master the method of transforming the chakra fruit. As the head of the Otsutsuki clan, there are many secrets hidden in Pushur's mind. There's a seal. There is a genjutsu seal in Pushur's mind. This seal is similar to the brain seal in the Harry Potter world. If the genjutsu can't be broken, Pushur's memories and thoughts can't be seized. And Hinata is not proficient in this field. In that case, I can only use force. Hinata made a hand seal. Yin-yang seal, open. Unlocking Pushur's seal, chakra returned in an instant. However, the pillar of the truth-seeking ball not only limited Pushur's movements, but also sealed his chakra. He has chakra, but he can't use it. At the same time, Hinata can not only control Pushur's will and actions through the spiritual ball, but also through the stick of the truth-seeking ball. Turn into my power. Hinata's hands quickly formed a seal, controlling Pushur to transform himself into a chakra fruit. Pushur crazily screamed. Mental torture was always more unbearable than physical torture, and the process of being forced to transform himself into the chakra fruit was even more excruciating. Transforming the chakra fruit was equivalent to annihilating one's own soul and erasing the last traces of one's existence in the world. A trace of reluctance flashed in Hinata's eyes, but it quickly turned into determination. Chapter 358. Killing and Seizing the Power of Others. Hinata had seen similar examples in many novels in her previous life. Hinata originally thought that he wouldn't have any psychological burden and would be able to face this kind of thing calmly. But when it really came down to it, Hinata had an inexplicable feeling of disgust. This was different from killing people. This could be considered cannibalism. Even in the ninja education, they will never let a ninja rely on eating human flesh to survive in the case of food shortage. Is it really worth it to abandon all bottom lines and morals in order to obtain so-called strength and longevity? Hinata could not help but ask himself. At this moment, Hinata's heart was very firm, and there was not a trace of hesitation in his eyes. After Pushur was sealed, Hinata had told himself more than once that sooner or later, he would turn Pushur into a chakra fruit and eat it. However, even though his heart was already as firm as steel, Hinata's movements still hesitated. This was different from the fusion of the corpse-bone meridian and the wood release. Even if the essence was to seize the power of others, to turn people into chakra fruits and eat them, Hinata could not overcome his conscience. Pushur frantically resisted Hinata. This was a confrontation of eye techniques. If Hinata had not turned the truth-seeking jade into a stick and inserted it into Pushur's limbs, Pushur's resistance would have been even more intense and tenacious. If I really do such a thing, can I still be called a human? The chakra fruit is just a form of power. Pushur died during the transformation process. This can't be considered as eating humans, it's just a way to gain power. Absolutely not. If I really did such a thing, I would have lost my bottom line. What is human nature? Think about immortality. Think about the power to traverse the universe. As long as you have these, your lost humanity will be found one day. In Hinata's heart, there seemed to be an angel and a demon arguing fiercely. One of them wanted Hinata to obtain power at all costs, while the other was trying to persuade Hinata to retain the last bit of humanity for Hinata. Even Hinata was repeatedly trying to convince himself that the chakra fruit was not a Pu form. It was just a form of power. Hinata had absorbed Pushur's chakra, and had also fused the power of corpse bone pulse and would release. Now he had only transformed Pushur into a chakra fruit, and had not really eaten Pushur. As long as he could become stronger, what did it matter? Hinata's actions, thoughts, and heart seemed to be divided into different camps. They were fighting with each other, trying to persuade each other to give up. Hinata roared crazily, and a trace of struggle flashed in his eyes. He kept telling himself in his heart, "Do it this time, and only this time." However, this thought could no longer control Hinata's actions. The remaining 5 truth-seeking balls on Hinata's back turned into spikes and instantly pierced into Pushur's body, killing him completely. Huff, huff, huff. Hinata panted crazily, and his heart was filled with endless regret. However, Hinata's soul seemed to have obtained some kind of relief, and his whole body was completely relaxed. All this time, what was my purpose for persevering? Huff, huff. Hinata's clothes were already soaked in cold sweat, but Hinata turned a blind eye to it. Instead, he questioned himself again and again in the depths of his heart. What happened to me during this period of time? All my perseverance and effort, what was it all for? On the road to obtaining power, the difficulty was not the method, but the interrogation and self-blame that came from the soul. Hinata actually had a clear conscience about eating people before. How frightening was this thought? Now that he thought about it again, Hinata suddenly had an urge to cry. I almost don't know myself. Hinata felt that his pursuit was not wrong. As human beings, what's wrong with yearning for immortality and power? What Hinata was wrong was actually the method, the behavior of pursuing power by any means. Although Hinata has always said that he is the boss behind the scenes of the ninja world, the ultimate villain of the ninja world, Hinata has always had a moral bottom line that he must adhere to. That is the bottom line of being called human. Hinata reflected on what he had done during this period of time, quietly feeling his gains and losses. The uneasiness in his conscience made Hinata not dare to provoke the war of the 5 great ninja villages, because it would make Hinata feel that his hands were full of blood. Even if Hinata's hands were not clean for a long time, Hinata still left a piece of pure land for himself deep in his heart. After a long time, Hinata raised his head slightly. There is no airflow in space, even in the Tensigan chakra mode. It will be difficult to adapt after staying in space for a long time. In such an environment, Hinata must consume his own energy to maintain his vital signs. Hinata didn't say a word and silently flew back to the ninja world. At this moment, Hinata suddenly wanted to talk to Hyogo, hoping that Hyogo can show him the direction of the future. Hinata was looking forward to someone who could tell him that what he did was not wrong. Before entering the ninja world, Hinata looked back at Pushur for the last time, using the power of the Tensigan to bury Pushur in a meteorite, and then pushed him into the depths of the universe. In the end, I still couldn't break through myself. Hinata felt that he was very weak, and there was some regret in his heart, regretting that he gave up such a powerful force. Alas! With a sigh, Hinata flew all the way back to Shinobu, in the back mountain of Shinobu, and then returned to the Hyuga residence. Father, kneeling opposite Hyogo, Hinata's small face was tense, and his eyes were extremely serious. Hyogo, as usual, had a poker face, as if nothing can change his expression. What's wrong? Hyogo keenly noticed Hinata's abnormality. This time you secretly left the village. Did you encounter something difficult to solve? Yes. Hinata nodded, feeling a little wronged. Hyogo calmly said, Tell me. Hinata was silent for a moment, struggling for a long time, and then weakly said, Father, the hidden danger of your Rinnegan has been eliminated. Hyogo touched his eyes, and then asked, You left the village this time for this matter? Yes. Hinata lowered his head, and his tone was a little lost. Father, do you think I was wrong? With that said, Hinata talked about his hesitation when facing Pushur, and the inner struggle at that time. I've already seen the path to immortality. To me, it's almost within reach. I used to think that I would do anything to get power, but when it really came down to it, I became weak. I can't do it at all. Hinata was a little frustrated, and also a little wronged. If I really turned Pushur into a chakra fruit and ate it, I don't think I can be regarded as a human anymore. Chapter 359. I'm very happy. Hyogo's face was calm, with a deep sense of gratification and pride, and said in a calm tone, "Hinata, after all, you didn't become a puppet of power, and you didn't let your desires control your heart. As a father, I'm proud of you. You're indeed my daughter." Hinata suddenly looked up at Hyogo, with tears in her eyes. Since childhood, this was the first time Hinata couldn't hold back her tears. Recalling everything she had experienced before, Hinata felt regret, relaxation, confusion, fear. Too many emotions filled Hinata's heart, making it difficult for Hinata to be firm on her own path. The path that she thought she would be unswerving on, but now she couldn't see the scenery ahead. Hyogo continued, "Your talent is something I've never seen in my life. Even in the records of the Hyuga family, there has never been anyone like you who has such a powerful talent. But the process of you gaining power is too easy. You didn't work hard, and you easily gained power that others can't reach in their lifetime. I wasn't too worried about this before. You were so naughty when you were a child, but you were indifferent to everything." After a pause, Hyogo suddenly sighed. "I don't know what you've experienced, but your change was probably a year ago. When you treat power as faith, a crisis has already come. I'm very happy that you can recognize your heart so quickly and break free from your desires." Hinata thought that this was probably the heart demon that was often mentioned in cultivation novels. People like Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Bordered Soil, and Nagato may have been lost in their heart demons. Hinata was a little hesitant. Hinata didn't want to give up the dream of pursuing immortality, because it was already within reach, and Hinata was unwilling to give up. Hyogo comforted. "Hinata, continue to do what you want to do." Hinata looked at Hyogo in surprise. Hyogo showed a faint smile, and said in a calm tone, "Hinata, since you can keep your moral bottom line under the temptation of power, I believe you won't lose yourself in the future. Your plan is not wrong." Hinata once revealed part of his plan to Hyogo. As for the rest, Hyogo may have guessed it himself. The world belongs to the young people. The ancestors created the present world, and the future world is in your hands. "I once met a person who had the same pursuit as you," Hinata asked. "Orochimaru?" "Yes." Hyogo nodded and slowly explained. "Orochimaru was like you before, lost in the temptation of power and did terrible things. Perhaps in Orochimaru's view, what he did was not wrong, but in the end, this world does not belong to him alone. So Orochimaru was abandoned by the village, and also by the world." Hyogo looked at Hinata and said, "Hinata, do what you want to do. As long as you don't break the bottom line. Even if you do wrong, as long as you are willing to turn back, the Hyuga family will still be your home." Hinata's heart was not calm. If a path did not reach the end, who could say whether it was right or wrong? Resurrecting Otsutsuki Kagaya, dealing with the 3 holy lands, none of this was wrong. It was just that their standpoints were different. But there were some things that had no standpoints. That was something that everyone, including himself, would not allow himself to do. "I understand." Hinata had some understanding, and his confused heart was once again determined. "Thank you, Father-sama." Hinata looked up at Hyogo, and a smile appeared on his face. "I know what I should do." There was no right or wrong in the battle of standpoints. Hinata did not need to be swayed on this matter. As long as Hinata could win the war, then Hinata was righteous. But if Hinata was unscrupulous in order to win, then Hinata may become the next Otsutsuki Kagaya. Otsutsuki Kagaya was a person who would do anything to achieve her goals. In order to fight against the rebels of the Otsutsuki clan, she turned living people into white zetsu. No matter how many reasons Otsutsuki Kagaya had to explain her behavior was wrong. But Hinata wanted to resurrect Otsutsuki Kagaya, and it was not a matter of right or wrong. It was only about standpoints. Hinata had to admit that he was terrible before, like a devil. Hyogo was right. Hinata's power came too easily, and he casually stood at the top of the ninja world, and anything could be done easily. The strength of power made Hinata lost himself in it. An excessive pursuit of more power. To put it bluntly, the previous Hinata was just a nouveau riche of power, and things that were not easily obtained through hard work eventually shook Hinata's heart. Hyogo breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Hinata and said, "Well, go back and rest, you are tired." Hinata nodded obediently. "Father-sama, then I will go back first." Back in his room, Hinata washed and lay on the bed. Without thinking about anything in his mind, he quietly stared at the ceiling in a daze. Don't know how long it took, Hinata fell asleep, and when he woke up, it was already the next morning. Getting up, eating breakfast, Hinata walked to the courtyard and stretched. Comfortable. His body stretched out, and his heart has been completely relieved. Hinata no longer regretted missing the power of Urushi, because Hinata believed that he would get more power sooner or later. Giving up power, Hinata got humanity. Hinata felt that what he had gained was far more than what he had lost. Without guilt in his heart, Hinata was more determined to his dream. Right or wrong, let strength prove it. As long as Hinata keeps his bottom line and retains the last piece of pure land in his heart, his soul will eventually have a place to return to. The feeling of peace is so comfortable. Hinata felt as if he had returned to his childhood, and even the environment that he had long been familiar with was very beautiful at the moment. At that time, Hinata had no pursuits, and his days were comfortable. Later, Hinata had ambitions, and the self-blame and helplessness in his heart had been tormenting Hinata, but Hinata himself ignored these. It wasn't until this moment that Hinata could truly pursue her dreams without any psychological burden. With the release of her spirit, Hinata felt extremely relaxed and at ease. It seems that I haven't had a good stroll in Shinobu for a long time. Hinata walked out of the Hyuga residence with steps that did not recognize his relatives. Chapter 360. Shinobu, the village where Hinata grew up. Hinata used to be very familiar with this place, but he doesn't know when it started. But Hinata has rarely been able to calm down and take a good stroll in the village. Speaking of which, it has only been about a year, but Hinata feels that this period of time is very long. In this year, Hinata has experienced the most important turning point in his life. He wanted to turn over a salted fish and transform into a dragon, but he lost himself in the process of jumping through the dragon's gate. All he thought about was how to obtain power. A peaceful life has always been around Hinata, but Hinata feels that this peaceful life is getting farther and farther away from him. But in the end, Hinata still looked back. It turned out that everything was still around him, but he thought that those things were no longer important, so he ignored these beautiful things. Yo. Hinata, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Walking into the meatball shop, the shop owner greeted him warmly. Have you been busy recently? I heard that you have made a great contribution in resolving the war between Shinobu and Kumo. What do you want to eat today? It's all free. Thank you, uncle. Hinata was very happy in his heart and said, Then I won't be polite. 30 skewers of meatballs and 5 bowls of red bean soup. Shop owner. You are really not polite. Ha ha ha. The shop owner was embarrassed, but he still prepared food for Hinata. Munch munch. Hinata ate meatballs while looking at the people coming and going on the street. It seems that after changing his mood, the scenery in his eyes seems to have changed. When he was a child, Hinata felt that Shinobu was peaceful and harmonious, and everything was very beautiful. But when Hinata began to pursue power and immortality, she felt that these people's lives were muddle-headed. They didn't pursue anything, nor did they have any ideals. Their lives were as calm as stagnant water without any ripples. Even Kakashi in Hinata's eyes became a failure defeated by reality. He was bound by the rules of ninja and had no choice but to muddle along day by day. However, at this moment, all of this is different. This was what real life was all about. They don't have no ideals and pursuits. What they want is a peaceful and happy life, far away from war, far away from sorrow, and working hard for it. If Hinata continues to walk on the previous path, maybe one day Hinata will obtain great power and become immortal. But Hinata's future seems to be foreseeable. That was to enjoy the loneliness and pain brought about by eternal life in the desolate and lightless abyss of the universe. After a long time, Hinata may forget everything that happened in the past and lose herself in her long life. Immortality may sound good, but if there's no one to accompany him, it will be the real torture to live to the point of suffering to go crazy. Loneliness was an endless hell. Those who fell into it would breed demons in the depths of their hearts. Oh, what I'm most afraid of is loneliness. Looking at the street outside the window, perhaps at some point in the past, Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Bordered Soil, Orochimaru, and others, they have all walked on this street, but in the end, for some reason, they fell into the dark abyss. When they feel lonely, they will think that this loneliness is brought to them by the world, and then they will start to be hostile to the world. But if they are willing to look back, they will find that the world has always been with them. Every single one of them had a place to return to. Stretching his body, Hinata touched his stomach again, and licked the soup stuck to the corner of his mouth. Yo, are you full? Thinking of Hinata's appetite, the shop owner quickly changed his words. Ahem. I'll charge you for the next meal. Hinata. I'm not eating anymore. Hinata snorted discontentedly, and walked out of the meatball shop angrily, and continued to wander aimlessly in the village. On the football field, a group of children were playing football, and some little girls were cheering for them. The little boy heard the cheers of the little girl, and mustered up his strength and played harder. In the evening, the old woman walked home with a basket of vegetables. Her granddaughter jumped in front of her, and waved to her grandmother from time to time, waiting for her to catch up. Hinata watched all this silently. This seemingly muddle-headed life was so beautiful and peaceful at this moment. At this moment, Hinata was glad. Fortunately, he still had a little conscience and didn't agree with Black Zetsu's opinion to provoke the war between the 5 great ninja villages. Otherwise, all of this will cease to exist. Those children who play football may be forced to be sent to the battlefield, and the village will also be greatly affected because of the war. And the villagers' lives will also be affected. Unconsciously, Hinata walked to the Rock of Naruto. Thinking of the 4 Shinobi World Wars in the original manga, that war was caused by the struggle for the ownership of the Bijou. As Black Zetsu said, the war is inevitable. If everything goes well, maybe the Jubi's resurrection will be earlier than in the original manga. In the original manga, the organizations were very successful in robbing the Ichibi to the 7 Tails, but they hit a wall when robbing the Hachibi and the 9 Tails. However, Orochimaru has the Hachibi's horn in his hand, and Minato has the other half of the 9 Tails in his body. If the Jubi's resurrection is brought forward, maybe everything will be different. Hinata didn't feel uneasy at the moment. Since the 2 sides have different positions, the only thing Hinata can do is to try to avoid unnecessary casualties and unnecessary war. Is it natural for the 5 great ninja villages to rule the ninja world? Hinata doesn't think so. In terms of the pain brought to the world, the 5 great ninja villages bear the brunt. If the 5 great ninja villages must resist, then carry out the decapitation operation. If the 5 great ninja villages want to join forces, they will definitely hold the 5 Kages convention again. The only way to avoid war is to kill the 5 Kages with absolute power. Because of the different positions, in Hinata's view, the 5 Kages who want to dominate the Bijou and maintain the structure of the 5 great ninja villages are the culprits of war. But the 5 great ninja villages in the original manga also want to resist the Eye of the Moon project. Hinata thought for a moment. The Eye of the Moon project must not be exposed. The bordered soil in the original manga is too reckless. In fact, if only the Bijou was lost, the 5 great ninja villages may not unite. But the Eye of the Moon project is something that even Hinata can't tolerate. Well, Hinata doesn't doubt his IQ, but sometimes we need to listen to other people's opinions. Let's find a chance to ask Dad and listen to his opinion. Hyogo seems to be very intelligent. Cough. In the ninja value, I'm a ninja with 10 intelligence. Chapter 361. Land of Iron. As a neutral country in the ninja world, the Land of Iron has reached an agreement with the ninjas a long time ago. The Land of Iron will not participate in the war between the ninjas, and the ninjas will not start a war against the Land of Iron. Although the Land of Iron, which has avoided several ninja world wars, has peace, but the country is covered in snow all day long, so it is not rich. The country is not rich, and there is no powerful ninjutsu, which may be the real reason why the Land of Iron can become a neutral country. The 5 Kage conference has been held for several days, and the 5 Kage have been arguing for several days. Hinata's judgment is correct. If it wasn't for the Uchiha Bordered Soil's public announcement of the Eye of the Moon plan, and declared war on the 5 major ninja villages, the 5 major ninja villages would never join forces. In the original story, after Sasuke captured Killer Bee, Raikage proposed to hold the 5 Kage Conference. The original purpose was to hold the 5 Kage Conference accountable. Raikage even publicly pointed out that the members of the organizations were defected ninjas from other villages, and even some villages had cooperated with the organizations. Of course, in order to save some face for the ninja village, Raikage used the word use instead of cooperation directly. However, Inoki didn't avoid it and publicly admitted that he used the Akatsuki. At the beginning of the 5 Kage Conference in the original story, the 5 major ninja villages didn't trust each other. Among the 5 Kage, only My Love and Terumi May sincerely hoped that the 5 major ninja villages could join forces against the Akatsuki. And Shinobu's Danzo also tried to control the 3 ships with Kodo Amatsukami, which simply lost the face of Shinobu. This is the truth of the 5 major ninja villages. The reason why the 5 major ninja villages in the original story resolved their hatred was that they understood and trusted each other in the joint battle. One of the 4 irons of life is to bear a gun together. In the joint battle, the ninja of the 5 major ninja villages saw the hope of peace and sincerely looked forward to peace. They also experienced the pain of war together, so there was a world of mutual understanding. In the end, the war has become a war to protect everyone. But what was the price? Hinata didn't know how many casualties there were in the 4 Shinobi World Wars, but the number of casualties on the first day was recorded. 100,000 white Zetsu fought against 80,000 ninja allied forces. When the first day of the war was over, both white Zetsu and the ninja allied forces suffered casualties. Out of the 80,000 ninjas, 40,000 of them died. The atmosphere in the conference room was a little heavy. The Raikage was aggressive from the beginning, and the Tsuchikage was astute. He often pointed out the key points. Although Tsunade made a concession and expressed his willingness to destroy the Edo Tensei and prove that no one in Shinobu other than Orochimaru had practiced this forbidden technique, it was clear that no one in Shinobu had practiced it. Moreover, after the collapse of Shinobu's plan, Tsunade permanently banned the Edo Tensei on the basis of the forbidden jutsu. No ninja in the village, including Naruto, can learn the Edo Tensei. Tsunade said it sincerely, but who was willing to believe it? Tsuchikage Inoki Raikage AI, and Sand Hideout's Proxy Chio didn't believe Tsunade's words. They guessed that Shinobu must have begun to secretly study the Edo Tensei. Especially Danzo, after seeing the power of the Edo Tensei, he will never give up this forbidden technique. And although Tsunade was willing to destroy the Edo Tensei, who can guarantee that Shinobu didn't leave a backup? Although the Mizukage hoped that the 5 villages could join forces to fight against the organizations, she also had doubts about the Edo Tensei. No matter what she thought as the Mizukage, she must question this matter. On the contrary, Mifune, the Land of Iron's admiral, was willing to believe in Tsunade's sincerity. Unfortunately, the Land of Iron was a neutral country. Mifune only had the right to preside over the meeting and couldn't participate in the affairs of the ninjas. The 5 Kages argued for several days, but they still couldn't come up with a solution that satisfied all parties. Although Tsunade made concessions, it was limited to the matter of the Edo Tensei, and Tsunade only had sincerity to show. However, sincerity is often the most difficult thing to win people's trust. After a long silence, Inoki said faintly, "This old man has a proposal, but I don't know if Naruto is willing to accept it." Tsunade said loudly, "Please speak." Inoki glanced at everyone and said faintly, "The threat of the Edo Tensei to the shinobi world is no less than that of the Bijou. In order to maintain the stability of the shinobi world, Shinobu's Shodame once distributed the 9 Bijou to the various villages. The solution to the problem of the Edo Tensei is the same. The 5 great shinobi villages jointly control the Edo Tensei." As soon as Inoki said this, Tsunade immediately rejected. "This is impossible." Inoki glanced at Tsunade and said calmly, "Let me finish. What I mean by control is not all. Rock Village, Sand Hideout, Cloud Village, and Mist Village each control a part of the Edo Tensei. Once Shinobu learns the Edo Tensei, Our 4 villages will also join forces to fight against Shinobu. After Inoki finished speaking, he no longer spoke, and the other 4 Kages were also silent, quietly thinking about the feasibility of Inoki's proposal. The 4 great shinobi villages can't trust each other, this is certain. The 4 villages all control a part of the Edo Tensei at the same time, and it is impossible for them to join forces to learn the Edo Tensei. The only prerequisite for the 4 great shinobi villages to join forces is that Shinobu's power has threatened the other shinobi villages, and they have the attitude of unifying the shinobi world. Shisa Nara leaned over to Tsunade and whispered a few words in his ear. After listening, Tsunade looked up at the other 4 Kages. Shinobu agrees with Tsuchikage-sama's opinion, what about you? Terumime glanced at Shisa Nara with her beautiful eyes, and as if she felt that Shisa Nara wasn't handsome enough, she immediately retracted her gaze and said indifferently, then that's it. Chio also nodded. If the shinobi world maintains the peace, Sand Hideout must form an alliance with Shinobu to maintain the current situation. Sand Hideout can't afford any more losses. Everyone's eyes were focused on Reikage. Humph! Reikage snorted angrily and got up to walk out of the meeting room. When he reached the door, Reikage said unwillingly, we have been delayed for so many days, and there are still many things to do in the village, we have no objection. Behind Tsunade, Shisa Nara and Kakashi looked at each other, and saw the relaxed look in each other's eyes. After so many days, the problem of the Edo Tensei was finally solved. Boom! As soon as Reikage opened the door of the meeting room, Inoki's voice sounded again. Reikage, since the problem of the Edo Tensei is solved, let's talk about the Akatsuki. The Edo Tensei was originally a ninjutsu used to gather information and perish together with the enemy. It was Orochimaru who developed this technique to such an extent. And the Rinnegan? Inoki turned his gaze to Tsunade and said faintly, only Shinobu has seen the Rinnegan with his own eyes. We don't have the corresponding information. Naruto, why don't you talk about the Rinnegan first? Chapter 362. Reikage's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He originally wanted to leave the meeting room, but Inoki's words made Reikage have to sit back down. After arguing for several days about the Edo Tensei, Reikage almost forgot about Akatsuki's threat. Reikage. A real man knew when to yield and when to stand tall. In fact, most of the people who were able to sit in the position of shadow had already mastered thick black theory to the point of perfection. Reikage sat back in his seat silently, as if nothing had happened. On the contrary, Darui and Shige behind Reikage were thin-skinned and smiled awkwardly. The other 4 Kages turned a blind eye to this. Tsunade's face was also calm, and he said without looking back, Kakashi, you have fought with Rinnegan, tell us about him. Yes. Kakashi responded, and then said lightly, Rinnegan's body has the ability to create asteroids. In the battle with Rinnegan, Rinnegan's body only fought once, so other information is not known for the time being. However, according to the battle in the Land of Fire, Rinnegan's body should have suffered a certain degree of injury, or maybe he wants to hide his identity. We fought with Rinnegan's puppets. There were 6 puppets, each with different abilities. Kakashi gave a general introduction of Pain's Rakuto ability, and also briefly described the battle between Hinata and Pain. In fact, Shinobu had already reported the information of Rinnegan to the major ninja villages before, but it was not as detailed as Kakashi's introduction. Now that they heard the ability of Rinnegan with their own ears, everyone's face was extremely dignified. Tendo Pain's power is enough to destroy a ninja village. Chikashodo Pain can summon a large number of psychic beasts. Gekido Pain can absorb chakra and ninjutsu. These are extremely tricky abilities. According to Kakashi's introduction, Gekido Pain absorbs ninjutsu extremely fast. If Gekido Pain can withstand chakra, I'm afraid Hinata will have to go through a hard battle. Moreover, Hinata destroyed Pain's Rakuto too fast, so Shinobu didn't have all the information about Pain. After a moment of silence, Chio of the Sand Hidden Village asked first, can Rinnegan absorb chakra? This is also the question that everyone wants to know the most. Since Rinnegan can't absorb chakra, then what about chakra? Inoki wants to know if Rinnegan can absorb dust release. Kakashi faintly said, Akatsuki's goal is tailed beasts. Rinnegan should be able to suppress tailed beasts. After a pause, Kakashi continued. According to Hyuga Hinata's speculation, the body of Rinnegan should have all the abilities of a puppet, and at the same time, it should have some abilities that a puppet doesn't. Everyone nodded in agreement. Hearing this, the purpose of the organizations was obvious. If Rinnegan can absorb chakra, then the purpose of the organizations collecting tailed beasts is to enhance the power of Rinnegan, and then achieve their unspeakable purpose. Inoki looked at Kakashi and asked, "How sure is Hinata in your village to deal with Rinnegan's body?" Kakashi thought for a moment and said, "If it's just a puppet, Hinata can probably defeat it. But Rinnegan's body is too mysterious. Only by understanding the other party's information can I make an accurate judgment." Reikage was full of impatience. Since Akatsuki is so powerful, why don't they take action? Mei explained. It should be because of the Sanbai. Our fourth Mizukage-sama was Sanbai's Jinchuriki, but he didn't choose the next Jinchuriki before he died. Inoki's eyes flashed, and he looked at Mei and asked, "Tailed beasts are the ultimate weapon of a village, but the fourth Mizukage didn't choose the next Jinchuriki. Has he noticed something?" Mei's face was uncertain, and after a moment of hesitation she said, "It's no longer necessary to continue to hide it. Our fourth Mizukage was once controlled by someone. After I noticed this, I asked Ao to use the power of the Byakugan to lift the Genjutsu on the fourth Mizukage. When the fourth Mizukage was awake, he said something about Akatsuki." Speaking of this, Mei's face became extremely solemn. "If I'm not wrong, there is a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan hidden behind the organizations, and the fourth Mizukage was controlled by this person for several years." Tsunade was surprised. "Manjikyu Sharingan? Is it Itachi Uchiha?" Mei shook her head and said, "No. The fourth Mizukage has fought with Itachi Uchiha and Biwa Jizo. Although Itachi Uchiha's power is strong, it hasn't reached the level of that person. Ao has also fought with Uchiha Shursui, but Shursui's age is not much." Hearing this, Inoki's face changed dramatically. The person described by Mei reminded Inoki of a nightmare he once had. It was a person Inoki couldn't forget in his life. Tsunade also thought of that person, but that person should be dead. After succeeding the position of Naruto, Tsunade learned a lot of information that he didn't know before. For example, the Nine Tails Rebellion 13 years ago, and the Uchiha Genocide 6 years ago. All the signs pointed to the fact that someone was manipulating everything behind the scenes. Even the Uchiha Genocide, Shinobu is not the only one behind the scenes. There are also the missing Sharingan. Shinobu has been tracking the information of the Akatsuki for a long time. In fact, it's not without reason. Itachi Uchiha went undercover in the organizations to track down all of this. In order to win the trust of the masked man, Itachi Uchiha didn't reveal too much information to Shinobu. There was dead silence in the conference room. As a Kage, they have more or less heard of the Uchiha Madara. After a long time, Inoki spoke first. At present, the organizations have entered a full-scale stealth stage, and the members of the Akatsuki are not walking in the ninja world. The only thing we can do at present is to track down the information of the Akatsuki. If the information of the Mizukage is correct, then the organizations have made all the preparations, and what they are waiting for is the resurrection of the Sanbai. Tsunade showed a trace of admiration and said, "The fourth Mizukage's behavior is indeed admirable. He has won several years of time for the ninja world. The tailed beast is the ultimate weapon of the 5 great ninja villages, and it is also the guarantee for the 5 great ninja villages to stand at the top of the ninja world. The fourth Mizukage is willing to give up the Sanbai. This approach is indeed admirable." Inoki continued, "The matter of joining forces can be discussed later, but about the information of the Akatsuki, I hope that all villages can share it. They are the common enemy of the entire ninja world." Reikage heard this and directly said, "That's it." Tsunade and Terumi Mei were somewhat unwilling, but at this moment, it doesn't make sense for the 5 great ninja villages to join forces. If the organizations don't come out, the 5 great ninja villages can't find their nest. More importantly, the 5 great ninja villages can't trust each other. Even if they join forces, they can only look united. The sharing of information of the organizations is already the limit of what each village can do. Chapter 363. Since the information is shared. Inoki looked sideways at Tsunade and said faintly, "Your shinobu has fought with the organizations the most, so tell me about their specific information. And to what extent can Orochimaru's Edo Tensei be used?" Hearing Inoki's words, Reikage, Chiyo, and even Inoki himself had a strange expression, but their eyes were extremely solemn. The reason why the ninja world thinks that Hinata has grown to the level of Hashirama is not because of the battle between Hinata and Rinnegan, but because Hinata has beaten the second Tsuchikage, the 3 generations Reikage, and the 3 generations Kazekage. Moreover, with the 3 of them working together, Hinata was able to beat them. The ninja world speculated Hinata's approximate combat power based on the combat power of the 3 Kages, and then speculated the power of Rinnegan. Judging from the aftermath of the battle, Deidara should be the strongest in the ninja world. But the attack range never represents the power of a ninja. Namikaze Minato's Rasengan can only hit one person, but he is the number 1 in the entire ninja world. And the name of Golden Flash is known throughout the ninja world. Shinobu has also reported the information of Orochimaru to the major ninja villages before, but some of the information of Orochimaru is related to Shinobu's secrets, so the words are a bit vague, only mentioning the difference between the 2 Edo Tensei. Kakashi. Tsunade looked back at Kakashi and said loudly, "You say it." Yes. Kakashi recalled a little and said, "In that battle, Orochimaru performed 2 Edo Tensei. The first Edo Tensei has no wisdom, and its strength is not strong, and it can only fight like a puppet." Inoki nodded and said, "This is the first Edo Tensei. After Shinobu's second Naruto developed this jutsu, he used it in battle. The Edo Tensei can only be used to gather information and perish together with the enemy, but its power is not strong. And this jutsu is against human ethics, so the first Naruto soon banned this jutsu, and the second Naruto has never used this jutsu since. In fact, the second Naruto is quite pitiful. In order to follow the footsteps of his brother, he could only develop forbidden jutsu to improve his strength. However, every ninjutsu developed by the first Naruto was labeled forbidden jutsu by the first Naruto. So much so that in the end, Naidame Hokage could only use the water release to shock the entire shinobi world, and there were very few forbidden jutsu he could use. If the second Naruto could use the Edo Tensei, it is estimated that the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn wouldn't have been able to kill the second Naruto. From this point of view, the second Naruto still listened to the first Naruto's words. Kakashi continued. After Orochimaru was defeated for the first time, he fled to the location of the apothecary's pocket, and the apothecary's pocket has already prepared the Edo Tensei ritual. Orochimaru lifted the initial Edo Tensei and used a new sacrifice to perform the Edo Tensei again. This time, the necromancers have self-awareness and wisdom. They are no different from when they were alive, except for the eyes. Perhaps the only difference between them and ordinary people can be seen from the cracks on their bodies. The Reikage asked impatiently, "What about their strength? What kind of strength do the necromancers have this time?" In all fairness, the 4th Reikage asked himself that his current strength was still a little worse than his father, the 3 generations Reikage. And not long ago, Hinata defeated the Hachibi and the 2 Yujito-ni. Although Killer Bee doesn't remember anything, Yujito-ni personally experienced how he was defeated by Hinata. With just one blow, Hinata injured the Nibi and the Yujito-ni with just one palm strike, and cut off the connection between the Nibi and Yujito-ni. At the same time, the aftermath of the palm strike also injured Yujito-ni. This is simply terrifying. So the Reikage was eager to know how big the gap between himself and Hinata was. Kakashi continued. As a junior, I have never fought with the 3 Kages when they were alive, so I don't know their strength. But the 3 generations Kazekage's Iron Sand Jutsu, the 3 generations Reikage's Ichiban Jutsu, and the second Tsuchikage's Dust Release, they have all been used in that battle. The Edo Tensei have unlimited chakra and an immortal body. The only way to defeat them is to seal them. Kakashi roughly described the whole process of the battle, and everyone's face was extremely ugly. Especially Chiyo, Reikage, and Inoki. although Hinata's attacks landed on the bodies of the Edo Tensei undead. In their ears, they felt as if Hinata's attacks were slapping them in the face. Anoki said in a deep voice, "The power of Nidaime-sama has reached its peak." The Raikage didn't want to speak at all. He always felt that Shinobu's threat was much greater than the organization's. However, the combination of the Rinnegan and the Edo Tensei has posed a huge threat to the entire ninja world. Perhaps in terms of strength, Shinobu's threat is slightly greater. But in terms of behavior, and in terms of purpose, the organizations are still the biggest threat to the ninja world. Anoki suddenly asked, Hinata's Byakugan can already detect the invisible Nidaime-sama? Kakashi nodded and said, yes. Anoki was silent. The speed of using dust release is slow, which is a huge disadvantage of dust release. However, the advantage of flying gives Anoki an ability that other ninjas don't have. Anoki is not afraid of anyone in the air. However, Hinata's speed in the air is faster than Anoki's, and the speed of his attack is several times faster than Anoki's dust release, and Anoki can't hide himself. If they fight, he should be killed in one move, unless someone cooperates with him. But the three Kages were defeated by Hinata. After really understanding Hinata's combat power, almost everyone present had a rough judgment in their hearts. Hinata can already destroy a ninja village by himself, and it's a ninja village at the level of one of the 5 great ninja villages. Whether it's the high-end combat power of the village or the backbone of the village, they don't have the ability to hurt Hinata. Anoki and the Raikage looked at each other. Is it the right choice to reach a settlement with Shinobu? Organizations can still attract Shinobu's attention at present, but once the organizations are gone, where will Shinobu put his attention? Even if at this moment Konoha still yearns for peace, but after a long time, can Konoha continue to tolerate the existence of other shinobi villages? It's not impossible. Even if Tsunade won't annex other ninja villages, what about the next Naruto of Shinobu? And Hinata? She's only 13 years old this year, and now she can listen to the words of the top leaders of Shinobu, but when Hinata matures, will she have something she wants to do? And Hinata should have the potential to continue to grow. 13 years old is the age when ninjas grow fast. If Hinata wants to unify the ninja world in the future, then she can easily do it. This is something that the other ninja villages have to consider, except for Shinobu. Chapter 364. Shinobu 61, End of September. Shinobu, Hyogo's study room, Hyuga residence. Tsunade has returned to the village for a few days, and the results of the 5 Kage summit have been announced. The matter of the Edo Tensei was resolved, and peace was restored in the shinobi world again. Shinobu keeps a complete copy of the Edo Tensei, and the other 4 major shinobi villages jointly keep a copy of the Edo Tensei. In addition, the 5 major shinobi villages have reached an agreement on the Akatsuki. Organizations share information, and after the whereabouts of the Akatsuki members are discovered, the 5 major shinobi villages have the responsibility to kill the other party. However, these are just the words of the village's higher-ups. As the top family of Shinobu, the Hyuga family naturally knows more about the truth of the summit. The shinobi world may not have the idiom, raising bandits for self-respect, but they also know the general meaning. After the 5 Kage summit, the other shinobi villages not only did not pursue the information of the Akatsuki, but also began to expand their armaments and increase their efforts to cultivate the new generation of ninjas. Even the sand and rock villages, which are not rich villages, the daimyo has allocated a lot of money to the village. Organizations may be a great threat, but the threat of Shinobu is greater than organizations. All the villages want to see Shinobu and the organizations fight to the death, and it would be best if Hinata and the leaders of the organizations die together. This is the result that the other shinobi villages want to see. Just like Hashirama and Uchiha Madara in the past, the situation in the shinobi world is getting more and more chaotic. Hyogo sighed. Now our Hyuga family is standing on the cusp of the storm. This is the most glorious moment, but also the most dangerous moment. As the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, Hyogo has been under a lot of pressure during this time. This pressure not only comes from the outside, but also from the inside of the Hyuga family. The strength of the family will inevitably make some people complacent, and this kind of complacency is likely to cause the dissatisfaction of others. Especially for those who don't have Kekkei Genkai, Byakugan is the source of jealousy. Father, there is no need to worry. If my plan succeeds, our Hyuga family will become the most powerful family in the entire shinobi world, and even the entire universe. Hinata sipped his tea and acted as if his life was as lonely as snow. Now that there is no hidden danger in Father Sama's Rinnegan, if Father Sama uses his full strength, you can even fight against the leaders of organizations. This was not Hinata bragging. Now that Otsutsuki Urushiki is dead, Hyogo's Rinnegan can naturally be used at will. After being strengthened by Urushi's chakra, Hyogo's chakra capacity has also greatly increased. Today's Shinobu, if Hinata says that he is the strongest, then Hyogo's strength is enough to be ranked second. He should be stronger than Jiraiya. Hyogo wondered, according to your information, there seems to be a difference in ability between my Rinnegan and Akatsuki leader's Rinnegan. Well, Hinata pondered for a moment and explained, it should be the source of the eyes. Hyogo's Rinnegan does not have the ability of Geto, nor does it have the ability of Chikishoto or Azura Path. It is slightly weaker than Nagato's Rinnegan. Speaking of which, Hinata suddenly scratched his head and said with a somewhat embarrassed expression, Father Sama, if you expose the Rinnegan, will people think that you are the leader behind the organizations? Hyogo. MDZZ, you don't say, this kind of situation is really possible. Hyogo's heart was extremely depressed. Since he obtained the Rinnegan, there have always been various reasons that prevent Hyogo from using the Rinnegan at will. At first, it was because of the influence of Urushi's spiritual energy, and now he has to avoid misunderstandings. Hinata asked, by the way, why did you call me here today? Hyogo threw some messy emotions to the back of his mind and looked at Hinata and said, Hinata, do you remember that I once told you that when you are strong, but not strong enough, you must rely on someone stronger to ensure your survival? Hinata nodded seriously. In the past, the Hyuga family was very strong, but the strength of the Hyuga family must be in the hands of Naruto, so that the Hyuga family can have a chance to survive. Hyogo continued, however, today's Hyuga family is too strong. Hinata was surprised. If we can continue to be strong, then there is nothing to be afraid of. What is Father Sama worried about? Hinata asked himself that the road to immortality is already within reach. And by the way, he can also let Hyogo, Hanabi, Mother, Hyuga Hizashi, and Niji complete the life evolution together. Who is the Hyuga family afraid of? Hyogo said slowly. Now the power held by our Hyuga family is no longer worthy of our strength. Puff. Hinata sprayed a mouthful of tea on Hyogo's face, and said in surprise, Father Sama, don't tell me you want to learn from the Uchiha family and start a coup d'état? Hyogo shook his head slightly and asked, Hinata, you have shown amazing talent since you were a child. You are a super genius of the Hyuga family. But if you were not my daughter, do you know what I would do? Hinata. Hearing this, Hinata has roughly guessed what Hyogo wanted to say next. Sure enough, Hyogo continued. When the power of a family surpasses the power of Naruto, the two sides will naturally have conflicts. This conflict may not be what both sides want, but it is real. If Naruto wants to make a decision, he will have to consider the attitude of our Hyuga family, and the attitude of our Hyuga family can even affect Naruto's decision. Over time, the relationship between the two sides will become distant. This is the possessiveness of power. Hinata looked at Hyogo blankly and murmured, Then what should we do? Hinata didn't expect that Hyogo would think so deeply. But it's not impossible. Didn't Konoha's White Fang, who once shook the shinobi world, die because of such a conflict? Hyogo said in a deep voice, 5th generation. I have observed her for a long time, and with her character and breadth of mind, she shouldn't care about these things. But what about the 6th generation and 7th generation? This is something that no one can guarantee. Glancing at Hinata, Hyogo slowly said, Hinata, you have ambitions that I can't reach. Perhaps one day, our Hyuga clan will have the power to unify the shinobi world. Hinata just wanted to speak, but Hyogo continued. But before that, we all need to temporarily hibernate and continue to accumulate strength. Hinata leaned in front of Hyogo and asked in a low voice, "Father-sama, do you really want to do this?" Chapter 365. Hyogo leaned back slightly distancing himself from Hinata. Now that Hinata has grown up, his body has also begun to develop. When Hinata's body approached, there was a burst of fragrance, which made Hyogo feel a little embarrassed. Hinata blinked innocently. "Father, what are you afraid of? I won't eat you." "Ahem." Hyogo coughed lightly, then said indifferently, "I don't want to do that, but I can't do nothing." "Hinata, you have great prestige in the family. Try to restrain the people in the family as much as possible, and set an example for them." Hinata nodded. "I know what to do," Hyogo said in a deep voice. On the night that the fifth generation returned to the village leaders held a meeting. "According to the intelligence, Danzo wants to deal with us the same way he dealt with the Uchiha clan." "Shinobu garrison force?" Hinata was surprised. "Danzo can't be thinking of handing over this department to the Hyuga family, right?" After the Uchiha clan was wiped out, the Shinobu garrison force was abolished by the village. Many of the rights of this department overlapped with the Umbu. And the Umbu was Naruto's direct subordinate force, so the direct result was that the Shinobu garrison force was only in name, and could only manage the villagers and ordinary ninjas. But then again, Hyogo was actually able to inquire about the contents of the village's high-level meeting, and his means were also very powerful. "That's about it," Hyogo said with a dignified face. "For those ninjas who don't know anything, the Shinobu garrison force may be an honor, but this department is a department that offends people, especially when the department is controlled by a family. Jealousy, dissatisfaction, hostility, and all these negative emotions will completely erupt." Indeed, many people in the Uchiha clan also regarded the Shinobu garrison force as the pride of the clan. This is not incomprehensible. Ninjas learn the ability to kill from an early age. Unless they understand it themselves, how can they understand politics? How can they understand the ways of the world? The same is true for the Hyuga family. Only Hinata received some education from an early age. Most of the ninjas in the branch family are actually just killing weapons. "Speaking of Danzo," Hinata whispered, "Father-sama, Danzo won't live for more than 2 years. Hyogo. "Hinata, do you know what the consequences will be if the matter of you attacking Danzo is exposed?" Although a lot of people, Naruto, even I have been tolerating Danzo's existence, this is not without reason. The Shinobu family needs. Hyuga Hayashi looked dignified and warned in a low voice. "Try to do it secretly." Hinata. "You said so much just now, I thought you were going to persuade me to stop. But in the end, you just want me to do it secretly." "It's not me." Hinata rolled his eyes at Hyogo. "What do you think of me?" "It's Sasuke." Sasuke is an Avenger. This is related to the revenge of the Uchiha clan. He will definitely not let Danzo go. I have some contact with Sasuke. When the time comes, as long as I leak information about Danzo to Sasuke, Sasuke will naturally kill Danzo. Although Hinata did not know what Sasuke said to Sasuke in the future, he could guess. It was nothing more than the truth about Itachi Uchiha and the Uchiha clan's extermination. More importantly, the future Sasuke also gave Sasuke the chakra. The current Sasuke may be more powerful than he was in the manga. Mangekyo Sharingan is nothing more than a manifestation of the Yin attribute. In the manga, Uchiha Shursui can open Susanoo with only one eye. Uchiha Madara can open Susanoo with no eyes. These examples violate the condition that only the eyes can open Susanoo. But if you understand the yin-yang release, you can understand that these situations are actually very normal. As long as you master the yin style to the extreme and understand the rules of Susanoo, you can change Susanoo from dojutsu to ninjutsu. Then theoretically anyone can use this ninjutsu. So as long as Sasuke's yin release is strong enough, even if there is no external stimulation, in theory, he can open Mangekyo Sharingan. Maybe Orochimaru won't live as long as the manga. Uchiha Sasuke. Hyogo almost forgot about this person. After all, under the radiance of Hinata, Sasuke's performance is a bit inconspicuous. If Sasuke can do something to Danzo, it will be a good thing. Danzo may be useful, but it's also true that he's annoying. And in today's Shinobu, only Danzo has been targeting the Hyuga family, often doing some small tricks, and even threatened Hyogo before. While Hinata was thinking about Sasuke, Sasuke was also thinking about Hinata in the land of grass. Huff huff huff. As expected of you, you've grown to this extent in just 1 year. Sasuke was sweating profusely and panting as he sat on a rock. The ground around him was a mess. Sasuke's eyes were filled with a trace of gloominess and incomparable conceit. But, compared to a year ago, I'm also completely different. Naruto, to what extent have you grown at this moment? After absorbing Urushi's chakra, Sasuke's strength has undergone an earth-shaking change. Whether it is the amount of chakra or the amount of chakra in his body, they have all been greatly improved. But Sasuke's eyes are still 3 tomo, and his Mangekyo Sharingan is still completely clueless. I originally planned to make a move immediately, but I didn't expect Orochimaru to recover to his peak. Sasuke was somewhat hesitant. He felt that Orochimaru can no longer help him much. Even if Orochimaru did his best to cultivate Sasuke, he still has a trick up his sleeve. Ha ha ha. With a chuckle, Sasuke snorted and said, "What's there to hesitate about? Since I've already decided, I'll just do it. Orochimaru, I'm no longer a chick that can be slaughtered by you." Clang. Putting his Kusanagi sword back into its scabbard, Sasuke decided to rest for a day, before going to find Orochimaru to fight to the death. Since he already knew the truth about Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke naturally won't seek revenge. But Shinobu and the Masked Man are the targets that Sasuke must eliminate. In this year, Sasuke didn't do nothing. Sasuke knows a lot of Orochimaru's secrets, which are completely hidden from Sasuke by Orochimaru. After killing Orochimaru, I'll see if there's any information that can help me become stronger in this world. Hinata, we will be able to meet soon. From the future Sasuke, he learned some things about Hinata. Sasuke didn't know what his future self was thinking, but at this moment, Sasuke was full of curiosity about everything. Can a ninja really do that? Chapter 366. The relationship between natural energy and immortality. In a dark underground stone room, Orochimaru was reading Hinata's paper on natural energy over and over again with the help of the dim candlelight, reading and understanding it. Orochimaru is a smart and studious person who is full of curiosity. He is a real scholar in the ninja world. He dedicated his life to the cause of science, and has never regretted it. However, there are 3 unfilial things, and having no children is the worst. Orochimaru has no intention of getting married. So in order to have children and to study the female body structure, Orochimaru didn't hesitate to change his gender with the living corpse reincarnation technique in order to achieve the state of hermaphrodite and have children. Cough cough. Ha 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 ha. In the empty stone room, Orochimaru's slightly hoarse and gloomy laughter sounded. Sticking out his tongue and licking his lips, Orochimaru's eyes flashed with a hint of excitement, but then it turned gloomy. Hinata's ability to interpret nature's energy to an unprecedented level, at least among humans. However, no matter how magical Hinata's description of natural energy was, Orochimaru still had a secret that he couldn't tell her. He can't practice Sage Mode. Orochimaru's talent is far above Jiraiya's. Before Jiraiya came into contact with Sage Mode, Orochimaru had already gone to the Ryuchi cave and wanted to learn Sage Mode. After failing to practice Sage Mode, Orochimaru found another way and found Yugo, who lived near the Ryuchi cave, and turned to study curse seals. Hinata also explained the side effects of curse seals in his paper. Natural energy is extremely docile at ordinary times, but when you want to control it, it will become irritable. This kind of energy is like nature. Usually you can ask for it, but once you ask for too much, nature will immediately turn hostile. As the developer and user of living corpse reincarnation technique, Orochimaru naturally knows the side effects of this technique. Although it was said to be immortality, once this technique was used too many times and the soul was split too many times, all the hidden dangers would immediately erupt. The number of times living corpse reincarnation could be used was limited. Being unable to practice the Sage Mode was the eternal pain in Orochimaru's heart. However, in Hinata's thesis he mentioned another point of view. The creatures of the three holy lands were nourished by natural energy all year round. They were immortal and could live for thousands of years. Then had their bodies changed? Humans needed to eat in order to grow. All the nutrients and energy needed for human growth were obtained through food. It was the same for chakra. Chakra was a combination of spiritual energy and physical energy. However, physical energy required food to replenish, while spiritual energy required rest to recover. Food was the source of all energy. In that case, if the food we eat becomes more advanced, will the energy also become more advanced? There was no need for Hinata to say more. With Orochimaru's wisdom, he could understand all of this by himself. Orochimaru had conducted countless human experiments, and his understanding of the human body was far beyond anyone in this era. The human body's digestive system, blood flow, life-sustaining energy, and so on. Orochimaru had studied all of these. Orochimaru even thought of the example of Gold Horn and Silver Horn. The two brothers once wanted to capture the Nine Tails, but in the process of capturing the Nine Tails, they were devoured by the Nine Tails. The two brothers stayed in the body of the Nine Tails for 2 weeks. They kept gnawing on the flesh of the Nine Tails, and absorbed the chakra of the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails could not bear it and finally spat them out. Since then the two brothers had a part of the chakra of the Nine Tails. From this point of view, ninjas could indeed obtain the energy of other creatures by eating. However, Orochimaru also knew very well that not everyone could eat tailed beasts. If he ate them rashly, he would only explode and die. But the snake in the Ryuchi cave. Although the snake in the Ryuchi cave was Orochimaru's psychic beast, and many of Orochimaru's ninjutsu were related to snakes, but after being unable to practice sage mode, the Ryuchi cave was no longer of much help to Orochimaru. I can give it a try. Orochimaru's eyes were fierce. At this time, Orochimaru could never give up the temptation of immortality and power. Even if there was only a glimmer of hope, he would give it a try. Orochimaru's snake perception allowed him to keenly capture Sasuke's approach. Sasuke. What does he want to do? When he thought of Sasuke, Orochimaru couldn't help but feel a little proud. Every time he saw Sasuke, Orochimaru felt that his title of genius was so sad. Orochimaru's talent lies in research, and Sasuke's talent lies in cultivation. From a certain point of view, Orochimaru is a person with real talent. However, in the world of ninjas, only the talent of cultivation is recognized by the world. At this point, even Orochimaru is no exception. In less than 2 years, he will be mine. Every time he thought of this, Orochimaru was even more excited than when he learned the important secrets from Black Zetsu and Hinata. Because in Orochimaru's view, Sasuke is his strength. But what is Sasuke doing here at this time? Orochimaru was puzzled. Da-da-da. In the dark corridor, the sound of footsteps echoed. Sasuke stopped in front of Orochimaru's door with the sword of Kusanagi on his waist. There should be BGM here. Sasuke, who was only 13 years old, looked slightly more mature than when he just graduated, and much more immature than when he was in the original work. Zzz. The harsh sound of thunder sounded. Chidori's sharp spear instantly pierced through the wooden door, aiming at Orochimaru in the stone room. Ha! Do you want to fight? Orochimaru easily avoided Sasuke's attack and smiled. Although your strength has grown a lot, your temperament is not good. Bang 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 bang. Sasuke continuously slashed the wooden door, and as the wooden door shattered, Sasuke stood in front of the door with a cold face, looking at Orochimaru without any color in his eyes. You have nothing to teach me. The 3 tomo appeared in his eyes. Sasuke said calmly. Orochimaru, you are too weak, so I don't need to give you the body. Orochimaru's eyes flashed with killing intent. Don't be so arrogant, Uchiha brat. You are still far from being my match. Anyone who has fought with the Uchiha may never forget the eyes of this clan. It is the eyes of a higher creature looking down at a lower creature, indifferent, calm, and without any color in their eyes. When these eyes look at you, you will feel as small as an ant. Deidara, Orochimaru, and the others have been deeply stung by these eyes. Compared with the Sharingan, the Rinnegan is full of majesty, and when you see these eyes, you will first think of the word God. In contrast, the Byakugan is much more cute. When being stared at by the Byakugan, you will only feel that all your secrets have been seen through by the other party. Chapter 367. Humph. It's because I'm a brat that you can get me. Sasuke showed contempt and said calmly, "You can't get Itachi, so you chose me as the target of attack, right?" "That's right. The genius known as Sannin. Unfortunately, you're just a so-called genius. If you want to surpass the name of Uchiha, it's simply beyond your reach. Any genius in front of the name of Uchiha is just an ordinary person." Sasuke has always been proud of the name of Uchiha, and he recognized this clan from the bottom of his heart. From this point of view, Sasuke and Hinata are the same kind of people. Both of them regard their family as very important. And because Sasuke was only 7 years old when the Uchiha clan was exterminated, he didn't see the darkness of the clan with his own eyes. Perhaps even if Sasuke saw it, he would recognize the clan as superior to the village. And I'm also disgusted by your way of doing things. What's your purpose? Speaking of this, Sasuke's voice became completely cold. You said you want to understand all the principles in the world, and for such a selfish reason, you play with others like toys in the palm of your hand. It's really disgusting. No matter how Chinibu Sasuke's mentality was, no matter how incomprehensible his way of doing things in the original work was, Sasuke's heart was actually very kind. In the original work, Orochimaru once found 1,000 people to test Sasuke's strength. Sasuke knocked down all of them, but didn't kill a single person. Orochimaru said, "If you can't be ruthless, you can't win against Itachi." Sasuke replied, "If I face him, whether I'm willing or not, I will be ruthless." Sasuke actually rarely killed people. He would only kill the people he wanted to kill, and he would force himself to be ruthless. Then he would kill. What do you know? Orochimaru's eyes flashed with madness and ferocity, but when he saw Sasuke's eyes, Orochimaru suddenly lost the will to explain to Sasuke. The ninja world was never fair. For Orochimaru, who has experienced the Shinobi World War, he has seen too much injustice. Some ninjas are well trained from birth, and can learn all kinds of secret techniques, and even have powerful Kekkei Genkai. As long as these people put in a little effort, they would be able to stand at a very high level. However, for most ninjas, not to mention having Kekkei Genkai and learning secret techniques, even learning ordinary ninjutsu is an extravagant hope. Shinobu has so many ninjas, but most of them only know a few simple ninjutsu. When fighting with the enemy, they can only rely on kunai and shuriken. In the eyes of the higher-ups, these ninjas are the machines that make money for the village, but in wartime, they are cannon fodder. Orochimaru is undoubtedly lucky. 3 generations of Naruto Sarutobi accepted him as a disciple, which made Orochimaru's achievements far beyond ordinary ninjas. However, in the face of Itachi, Uchiha and Hinata, Orochimaru felt that God was too unfair to him. God gave him talent, but didn't give him a Kekkei Genkai. Orochimaru has stood at the top of the ninja world, but he can't stand at the top of the ninja world. However, for Sasuke, he thinks that his Sharingan is natural. This is the power given to him by his family. Orochimaru saw through this contradictory idea, so he didn't have the heart to explain. He and Sasuke will never understand each other. Oh, I also want to know, what gave you the courage to face me? Orochimaru's hoarse voice was somewhat playful. As a ninja of the same generation as Hinata, when you see her, do you feel small? Geniuses are always in the minority. Your talent is indeed amazing, but compared to the same generation as Hinata, you still have a considerable gap. Sasuke calmly said, "You will soon understand." When the words fell, Sasuke's 3 Tomo eyes turned. The light gray stone room became dark in an instant. Orochimaru's body floated in the boundless darkness. The dim brass iron pillars pierced Orochimaru's limbs, firmly fixing Orochimaru in the dark void. This is Genjutsu? Orochimaru's face was ferocious, and his tone was gloomy. It seems that you have indeed grown a lot. In the stone room, Sasuke waved his sword of Kusanagi, and Orochimaru's head flew high, and then with a bang sound, it turned into smoke. Shadow Clone Jutsu? Sasuke's eyes became extremely vigilant in an instant. Orochimaru with his hands restored was really difficult to deal with. On the ceiling of the stone room, Orochimaru stretched half of his body out of the stone wall like a water surface. His mouth was wide open, and a brown snake came out of Orochimaru's mouth. And the snake spat out the sword of Kusanagi, fiercely stabbing towards Sasuke's back. Ding! A sound of metal clashing sounded. Sasuke waved his sword of Kusanagi to block Orochimaru's sword of Kusanagi. Staring coldly at Orochimaru, Sasuke released his whole body's aura. This is... Orochimaru's face was horrified, and he shouted crazily, "This is impossible!" How strong was Orochimaru's sword of Kusanagi? In the original manga, even the Nine Tails of Naruto was hit by Orochimaru's attack and couldn't move. But Sasuke easily blocked Orochimaru's attack. But what really shocked Orochimaru was Sasuke's chakra. This powerful chakra was not something that Sasuke could have. "Who are you?" Orochimaru's face changed greatly and he stared at Sasuke. "You are definitely not Sasuke, you are." Sasuke looked up at Orochimaru and said coldly, "Who else can I be?" "Orochimaru, this is the biggest difference between you and me. Aren't you curious why I am standing in front of you? It's because of this power." As soon as his words fell, Sasuke's whole body released lightning, and the blue lightning formed a line and spread toward Orochimaru. Lightning release, Chidori stream. The lightning that had changed to the extreme carried the power to destroy everything. The stone room's floor, roof, and walls were shattered in an instant, and Orochimaru's body disappeared into the stone room. After a while, when the lightning dissipated, only Sasuke was left in the stone room. Looking around vigilantly, Sasuke had to admit that Orochimaru was indeed very difficult to deal with. It was indeed too early for him to fight Orochimaru. But at the same time, Sasuke's heart was full of confidence. His power was indeed different. Even if he couldn't kill Orochimaru today, Sasuke also had the idea of leaving. Sasuke really couldn't stand Orochimaru's way of doing things. Every day he stayed here was the greatest torture for his heart. Those who were imprisoned by Orochimaru were taken from the prison to Orochimaru's laboratory every day. And if they were lucky enough to survive, they would be sent back to the prison again. Going back and forth like this, there was no hope. Sasuke didn't like this feeling, because in the darkness, the only thing he wanted to see was hope. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.